Part 2. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhongmao. Chapter 11. Zhang Laosan wanted to bite Ji Chang's to death. But under the big brother's cheerful smile, strong biceps, he could only wear a dry smile that was a little uglier than a bitter smile, and followed brother Zhang away like a little chicken. He left in disgrace, and everyone else said nothing. Ji Chang sighed again. I didn't expect that Zhang Laosan and his brother have a really good relationship. After saying that, he looked at Anzialu again and said with a smile, but my relationship with my brother is even better. Zialu, don't worry. My parents love me, and my elder brother and sister-in-law also love me. You will definitely marry me, it's a blessing. Anzialu has been studying hard since she was sensible, and has never heard anything outside the window. When did she hear such sweet words? Her face immediately turned red again, and she nodded shyly. She believed that since Nagasawa was so good, her married life would also be good. And the people nearby who heard Ji Chang say this. Anzialu doesn't know, how can they still not know? When it comes to marriage, it may not be a good thing for the woman if the man is loved by his family. If nothing else, take a look at the status of those men in the village who are treated as darlings by their families and the status of their wives at home. Who said that if the whole family is good to this man, they will definitely be good to his wife? Anzialu is still too naive. That's what he thought, but no one dared to expose Ji Chang's sweet words. After all, Zhang Laosan had just been taken away by his elder brother. So, they could only stand there helplessly, watching Ji Chang's, a gangster who had never had a good reputation in the village, happily leave with his silly sweet Anzialu. One person sighed, this is really a flower stuck in cow dung. Several others nodded in agreement. Even if Ji Chang's really became a worker, with his lazy temperament, his job would be ruined sooner or later. Coupled with his misdeeds, he was still somewhat new to Anzialu when he was not married. They could all guess what Anzialu would be like when he got married. Poor Anzialu, she was originally a promising high school student, good-looking, filial and sensible. Who would have thought that he would suddenly become mute? It's so confusing. When Anzialu took Ji Chang's home, An's father was using crutches to cook porridge. He is only in his early 40s this year, but his hair has turned gray early, his face is dark from working in the fields, and his whole body exudes an honest and decadent look. He should be decadent. After all, his family has been living a tight life since the separation. He finally gave birth to a good daughter, who is sensible, obedient, and can read. Seeing that life is getting better, who would have thought that, suddenly, this is what home has become. Father An actually needs to take good care of his legs now, but he feels sorry for his daughter who is busy working alone at such a young age, so he uses crutches to do what he can to help. Hearing the noise, he raised his head. When he saw Ji Chang's coming in with him, his expression was startled at first, and then became even more despairing. Anzialu agreed to marry Ji Chang's for the sake of the family, which made An's father feel useless. After all, his daughter had been studying away from home and didn't know the situation in the village, but he knew it very well. He also saw with his own eyes how Ji Chang's was too lazy to work and how he still had to be taken care of by his parents even though he was so big a young man. If a young man is not even willing to work on the ground to earn cents, what future can he have? In addition, Ji Chang's reputation has never been very good. I heard that he is not even willing to pour water at home, and insists on chewing the old to the end. An's father has always been proud of Anzialu, his only daughter. Now that Anzialu is going to marry Ji Chang's, a good-for-nothing gangster with a bad reputation, how can he be happy? After knowing that Anzialu had decided to get married without telling her and could not change it, An's father blamed himself and almost died of anger. He didn't like Ji Chang's, but An's father was not the kind of person who didn't know right from wrong. Knowing that if it weren't for Ji Chang's gift, his wife wouldn't be able to be saved, and she wouldn't be lying in the house well now. Even if Ji Chang's is not a good person, he is still kind to their own family. So, Ji Chang saw that his future father-in-law was stunned for half a minute after seeing him come in, and then he didn't know what he thought of, with a sad look in his eyes, and forced a sad smile at him. This smile is worse than not smiling at all. The words forced smile are almost written on his face. If it were anyone else, I would definitely be unhappy. But who is Ji Chang's? There was no expression on his face, and he went up and called out with a bright smile, "Uncle, my mother asked me to bring some meat to see you." Father-in was beating his chest in his heart. His Xiaolu. Such a good Xiaolu. Why would you marry someone like Ji Chang's? Oh my God. Why don't you have eyes anymore? The person he would rather marry is an old man like him. While beating, when he heard this, An's father nodded mournfully and said dryly, "Ah, that's right, you're so polite, and you're giving me meat, huh?" Suddenly realizing that what Ji Chang's had just said was sending meat, An's father's mournful expression turned into shock. Meat. Ji Chang's was not surprised by his reaction. After all, firstly, meat is expensive, and not only is it expensive, but you also need meat coupons to buy meat. For today's rural people, if they want to eat meat, they can only wait until the end of the year to kill the pigs and share the meat. Secondly, even now no one is firing in the village, so meat is hard to come by. It can be said that in this period, going shopping with a piece of meat in your hand is like going shopping with a wad of money in your hand. He smiled and said, "Yes, meat. I went to my elder brother's house today. My elder sister-in-law asked me to bring it back for my parents to eat, so my mother asked me to bring a bowl." As he said this, he specially showed the bowl of meat to An's father. Really seeing the flesh right under his nose, An's father was a little surprised, but at the same time he felt a little calmer. After all, Ji's mother allowed Ji Chang's to send such valuable meat to their family, which showed that she still valued their family's Xiaolu. Father-in is different from most men in the village who don't care about the affairs of their mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, because when he first married his wife, Grandma-in not only targeted his wife, but also targeted him. It can be said that An's father experienced the bloody storm together with An's mother. In addition, he only has an only daughter like An Xiaolu. Since his daughter was very young, he has been worried about what will happen to her mother-in-law if she gets married in the future. Now that Ji Chang's has talked about Ji's mother sending meat, An's father feels much better. What? Mother Ji doesn't mean this? How can it be? This is meat. These days, everyone who has some meat is hiding it, but Ji's mother sent Ji Chang's to bring such a big bowl of meat. She must pay more attention to his Xiaolu. Father-in felt better in his heart, the expression on his face was no longer so sad, and his smile became much more sincere, and he excused himself. "I'm so sorry. This is what your sister-in-law gave your parents to eat? How could you let us eat it?" "Ji Chang's, uncle, just take it. Anyway, you will be my parents after a while, so it's the same." As he said that, he looked at An Xiaolu with a smile. "Xiaolu and I are about to get married. We are all a family." An Xiaolu blushed again at his words. She stepped forward embarrassedly, took the bowl of meat, pointed to the cooking stove, meaning to cook it herself, and left with the meat. After his daughter had received the meat, An's father couldn't refuse any more. He just felt happy that my daughter's future mother-in-law values her very much and said politely to Ji Chang's, "How about you eat here tonight?" He was sincere. After all, he could no longer regret the marriage. Since he couldn't regret it, he could only find a way for Ji Chang's and An Xiaolu to cultivate their relationship. As father-in-law and mother-in-law, they also try to be nicer to Ji Chang's and try to make him feel the warmth of the family. They feel sorry for treating their daughter badly. Normally, people would be embarrassed to invite others to dinner. An's father was also prepared, planning to persuade Ji Chang's as soon as he continued. As a result, the handsome future son-in-law in front of him happily agreed. Hey. Thank you, uncle, then I'm welcome. Fatherin. He choked, and then he remembered what kind of reputation his future son-in-law had in the village. Trying hard to keep telling himself in his heart, this marriage cannot change Ji Chang's kindness to our family. An's father took a deep breath and showed a smile on his face. Come on, sit inside. Ji Chang's, hey, uncle, let's go. By the way, uncle, do you have any fruits or snacks at home? He smiled and went to help An's father while saying, I've been walking all the way, and I'm really a little hungry. This natural look makes you feel as if you are at home. Fatherin. Although he had known it for a long time, he still couldn't help but say it in his heart. This future son-in-law. How shameless. The two were about to enter the house when an old lady's voice suddenly came from outside. Hey, why do I seem to smell the aroma of meat? Where did you get the meat? Ji Chang's found that as the voice sounded, the smile An's father had maintained just now disappeared immediately, and there was a faint hint of anger and aggrievedness in his eyes. Anzialu, who was warming up the meat, also stood up. Her fair and beautiful face was full of stubbornness and she looked at the door, even clenching her fists. With this reaction, he ran through the memories in his mind and knew who it was. Father and mother and Grandma Anzialu. This woman is also a top performer. There was a famine when she gave birth to An's father. An's father was small and pitiful when he was born, and she had no milk to feed her. An's father's grandmother went around begging for help and finally got some goat milk to feed her. To the grandchildren. Grandma An didn't know where she heard it from, saying that goat's milk is good for mothers, so she wanted to drink goat's milk every day, but Grandma An stopped her, saying that it was only a little bit, and he drank it again as a baby. If nothing else, he couldn't get enough of the goat's milk. He was so hungry that he cried every day. If Grandma An wanted to replenish her health, she would eat eggs or drink rice porridge. No one expected that Grandma An would hold a grudge against her biological son. Because An's father was raised by his grandmother before he was 5 years old, it is difficult to tell whether it is her son or her mother-in-law that she holds grudge against. Later, the old man passed away, and An's father's life became difficult. He suddenly changed from a hungry but not wrong child to a pitiful little boy. Ever since he was a child, he was always the one who didn't have enough to eat at home, and he was always the one who did the most work among the brothers. However, he also received the most frequent scoldings, and was even beaten frequently. Grandpa An just wants to enjoy the highest authority in the family and doesn't care about his son. He just grew up. When An's father married his daughter-in-law, he finally felt the warmth of the family. Grandma Pianin intensified scolding and squeezing An's mother together. An's father protected his daughter-in-law, but she scolded her for being unfilial. After all, she was the biological mother. Father An could only endure it until Anzialu was born. Grandma An disliked her for being a baby girl and even threw her into the cold water basin for washing clothes while father and mother An were working in the fields. How could a child like her endure this in the dead of winter? If An's mother hadn't come back and found out, Anzialu might have died immediately. Because of this incident, An's father, who had always been thinking about the kindness of his parents in raising children, exploded. Grandma An seized the opportunity and directly purged the son out of the house. Originally, when she left the house, everyone could live their own lives, but she still took advantage of the close proximity between the two families and would come to hang out from time to time. It was not like she had never done something like stealing money after finding it, and she was caught. When he arrived, he cried An's father was unfilial, and his mother wouldn't let him come to see her. An's father no longer had much affection for her, but she always made trouble, claiming that she was not allowed to take things. She would go to the Public Security Bureau to sue An's father for being unfilial, and would also go to Anzilu's school to make trouble. People these days are afraid of meeting the police, and An's father is afraid of affecting his daughter's future, so he can only bear this tone. Anzilu didn't know about these things before. She only thought that her father was worried that Grandma An was her biological mother, so he indulged her so much. Although he didn't agree with it in his heart, he didn't say anything. It wasn't until something happened at home and she became mute and stayed at home that she realized that Grandma An was relying on the love of her father and mother to be so unscrupulous. But now she is mute and unable to reason. In the past, she only knew how to study in school and had no idea how to deal with it. In the past, Grandma An still relied on threats to take advantage of her. Now, An's mother is lying in bed sickly, An's father has a broken leg and cannot walk at all, and Anzilu is mute and has little strength. She immediately evolved into Mingzhan. Anyway, this family of three can't stop her. Now that she smelled the meat, Grandma An's eyes lit up. She didn't even look at the faces of her son and granddaughter. She walked in directly, stretched her neck and smelled. Hey, it's really meat. It's great. Boss, your nephew has been craving meat these days. I will take this meat back and give it to your nephew. As she said that, she reached out her hand to take the meat without being polite. Father An quickly stepped forward with a cane. No, Nagasawa brought it to us. Chang's, only then did Grandma An realize that Ji Chang's was here. She didn't take this young boy seriously, and said with her tongue, whatever I give to you is yours. I am your mother, and what's yours is mine. Why aren't you allowed to take it? As she said that, she reached out to take it again. Anzilu subconsciously tried to block it, but she pushed it away hard. Grandma An had been doing farm work all her life and was much stronger than Anzilu. With such a push, she still went towards the stove fire. Zilu. Ji Chang's had sharp eyes and quickly stepped forward and grabbed her, so that Anzilu's face was not exposed to the flames. But even this is enough to leave people with lingering fears. Father An's face was livid with anger. I didn't let you take it, put it down. I am your biological mother. You eat your own meat and don't give it to me. You are unfilial. You should not have given birth to you in the first place. You should have been drowned. You are a bastard. While Grandma An was cursing, her men took out the meat neatly. Anyway, no one in the An family can stop her, no matter how weak or disabled she is. She turned to leave, but Ji Chang strode forward and blocked her. He was a bit taller than the old lady, and now he was looking at her condescendingly. Grandma An was not afraid at all. She is old. If Ji Chang dares to do anything to her, she will immediately fall to the ground and scream in pain. Then he can still extort some money. What's going on? Do you still want to hit me? Come on, am I afraid of you? Ji Chang saw that the old lady's mouth was unclean again, and he was not angry. He smiled and said, how is that possible? You are Grandma Zilu. That is my grandma. It's just a little meat. You can take it, Grandma. Isn't that what you should do when you take your granddaughter's things? Grandma An was stunned, but she didn't expect Ji Chang's to say that, but soon she became proud. You know what's going on. Nagasawa. An's father looked surprised and pulled Ji Chang's to speak, but Ji Chang's patted his arm first. Uncle, Grandma is old, so I will help her go back. She is old, so we should be filial to her. As he said that, he showed a bright smile to Grandma An. You think so? Grandma An became even more proud. You are quite conscientious. That's right, I have a conscience. Ji Chang's chuckled, took the initiative to help Grandma An, and said with a smile, Grandma, I will take you back, so don't tire you out. As he spoke, he waved to An's father and Anzilu. Uncle, Zilu, I'll be right back. Father and Anzilu watched the two people leave with blank expressions and looked at each other. An's father, Ji Chang's, this kid, is so soft-tempered. Anxiolu shook her head blankly, not knowing what was going on. Then in less than 10 minutes, they heard a commotion at Grandma Anne's house next door. "Get out! Get out! Put your things down!" Grandma Anne was driving people away with a big broom, while Ji Chang still had a smile on his face. He moved his feet accurately every time, holding the bowl of meat in his left hand and a bunch of messy things in his right hand. Grandma Anne's voice was trembling with anger. "Who told you to take my things? Put them down." Ji Chang's tone was innocent. "Grandma, why are you so angry? I am your grandson-in-law and you are my grandma. Isn't it normal for you to give me something?" Fart. Grandma Anne put her hands on her waist and yelled, "When did I give it to you? You **ing got into the house and stole it yourself. Why is it so ugly to talk about stealing or not? We are relatives. How could I steal your things? You think so? Isn't this what you gave me to see that I like it and that I am filial to you?" Me. Even Grandma Anne, a veteran in the world, was rendered speechless for a long time by Ji Chang's lies. She used her trump card, "Put your things down. Otherwise we'll see you at the Public Security Bureau." "Okay." Ji Chang's was not afraid at all. "Then I'll see you at the Public Security Bureau, but Grandma, don't these things belong to our Xiaolu family?" "Fart you. Grandma Anne, these are all from my family. Even if it belonged to Xiaolu's family before and she took it over, it belongs to her." "Okay, then let's go to the Public Security Bureau and let the police comrades take a look." "Ji Chang's, this pen was bought by your family. Then why is it written with the name of Xiaolu High School and said it is a prize? Why do these pieces of cloth seem to be only available in the city where Xiaolu went to school? Hey, you are awesome. You traveled so far by train just to buy a few pieces of cloth and this watch. Why do I not believe it at home?" "Grandma Anne. How did she know that buying a watch requires a ticket and the pen has a name written on it? She doesn't even know how to read. I just knew these things were valuable, so I took them by force when I went to Anjia. And meat." Ji Chang's had no intention of letting her go and continued to ask, "Did you buy this meat with your meat stamp? Where did you buy it? Who did you buy it from? Go to the police station. If you don't tell me clearly, you will be suspected. It's all speculation. Grandma Anne, the malted milk essence you have is from our family. She asked someone to buy it specially. She couldn't bear to give it to her son and grandson, so she hid it in her room and ate some every day. Unexpectedly, Ji Chang's found it for her." Ji Chang's lowered his head and looked at the malted milk. "Oh, yes." Before Grandma Anne could feel proud, she stopped talking and watched as Ji Chang's put the things down, opened the malted milk, and sprinkled it into the air. She was reluctant to eat or drink. After saving for so long, she was only willing to eat a little of the malted milk every day, and it was just thrown away. Grandma Anne. At this moment, it feels like heartbreak. Ji Chang's even held his things and hid far away from the malted milk flying in the air, still smiling. "Grandma, look at you, why are you so careless? You just spilled such a good thing." Grandma Anne was almost furious. "Me? You? Me? Looking at you like this, you still want to say that it was me who spilled it? You are so good, why did I spill your stuff? Do you have any evidence?" "Grandma Anne, you, I saw it with my own eyes. It's ridiculous. This is your yard and your malted milk has been spilled. It's none of my business. I think you're out of sight. Otherwise, let's go to the police and discuss the matter of the pen and this watch. Hey, these things can be sold for a lot of money. How many years will the sentence be for stealing them?" Ji Chang's covered his mouth exaggeratedly, with a look of surprise on his face. "It won't be indefinite, I will stay in prison for the rest of my life." Grandma Anne. She said that going to the police was just to scare others. How could she dare to go to the police after having done so much? As Ji Chang spoke, he stepped forward. Grandma, let's not waste our time. Let's go to the Public Security Bureau and ask the police comrades how to deal with this. Seeing that he really planned to drag her there, Grandma An was so frightened that she quickly stepped back. Get out of here. Get out of here. Ji Chang's could only stand there, holding a bunch of things, his eyes full of hurt. Grandma, am I not your grandson-in-law? You just said that everything in my in-law's family belongs to you. I am my uncle's future son-in-law, and it belongs to your family. Otherwise, I will stay at your house tonight. Seeing that there are so many good things in your house, why don't you give me, my grandson-in-law, a taste? By the way, I just saw some eggs in your house. I like eating eggs. I can eat 5 a day, otherwise. Grandma An, ah. She collapsed, threw the broom away, ran back to the house quickly, and locked the door. Ji Chang's called a few times, but received no response. He could only sigh regretfully. Hey, really, it's you who calls me filial, and it's you who ignore me. Grandma, it's really hard for you to understand. After saying that, he raised his voice and shouted into the room, but don't worry about Grandma. I will often go to Xiaolu's house in the future, and I will meet you. I will follow you to your house again. We will have many opportunities. It's so long. Grandma An, who was hiding in the house. She never wants to go to Xiaolu's house again. After making sure that Grandma An wouldn't come out, Ji Chang's carried his things and strolled back to Xiaolu's house next door. As soon as he entered the door, he saw father and daughter looking at him. Xiaolu's eyes were full of admiration. She turned around and ran into the house, took out an egg, and gestured that she wanted to make Ji Chang's favorite egg. Father An's expression was still blank. It happened that An's mother woke up in the room and screamed a few times, and he quickly entered the room. Inside the house, An's mother was asking An's father if anyone was coming, when she suddenly heard Ji Chang's lively voice coming from outside. Xiaolu, I like to eat scrambled eggs, put more oil, yes, yes, and chop some green onions. An's mother recognized Ji Chang's voice, and the expression on her face suddenly became indescribable. Nowadays, whoever is a guest does not consider the host's family, especially when oil is so expensive. Ji Chang's can actually say such things when he comes to his future wife's house. She opened her mouth and asked her husband hesitantly, is he from the Ji family? Isn't he a little too that? Father An suddenly came back to his senses. Patting the uninjured leg, it's good to be shameless. It's good to be shameless. He couldn't help but laugh out loud, feeling that all the previous depression had been dissipated, and boasted. You are really my good son-in-law, ha 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 ha. Mother An, who had no idea what was going on, said. Ha. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhonmao. Chapter 12. The meal Ji Chang's had at An's house could be said to be a feast for both the guest and the host. After An's mother knew what her future son-in-law had done, she didn't think he was thick-skinned, and she liked him very much. Ji Chang's actions were clearly out of anger for their family, Xiaolu. If he hadn't cared about their Xiaolu, would he have offended people in vain? But she was still weak. No matter how much she tried to observe Ji Chang's directly, she could only barely say a few words to the future son-in-law, and then lay on the bed and listen to several people eating and chatting in the yard outside. Father An doesn't feel bad about his son-in-law at all now. It's good to be thick-skinned. Even though Ji Chang's is thick-skinned, he will still protect Xiaolu. Grandma An has been pestering their family for so long, and he has tried both soft and hard methods, but there is nothing she can do. As a result, it only took Ji Chang's 10 minutes to win. If An's father's favorability towards Ji Chang's was 30% before, then after he defeated Grandma An by his own efforts and his shamelessness, his favorability dropped slowly. It rose directly to 90. So while eating, he smiled and listened to Ji Chang's chatter. Ji Chang's, my next plan is to work hard in the factory. The factory director said that 20 yuan is just the initial salary. If I do well, he will introduce me to a state-owned enterprise as a worker. An's father didn't believe it. State-owned enterprises all require academic qualifications. Can Ji Chang's get in? He didn't believe it anyway. But the young man just likes to brag, and he understands. Anyway, the more he looks at this son-in-law, the more he likes him. Ji Chang's bragging is a normal behavior of a young man in his opinion. But just because he doesn't believe it, doesn't mean he can't encourage it. Thinking about it, An's father nodded with a smile, very good, very good. I can tell at a glance that you have a future, Nagasawa. You can definitely go to a state-owned enterprise. Anzialu believed Ji Chang's words. After all, this kind of situation also happened in the city where she used to go to school. She directly ignored that he was in his 40s, experienced and seasoned and had made a lot of contributions. She looked at her fiancé with admiration and stretched out her chopsticks to pick up a piece of scrambled eggs for him. Ji Chang's ate it unceremoniously and gave Anzialu a piece. He smiled and watched his fiancé eat it with a blushing face, then turned around and continued to face An's father. In state-owned enterprises, wages are higher and there are prizes. If I do a good job, I might get a bonus. When the time comes, I will use the bonus to buy a 3-turn and 1 ring. Now I also have a bicycle at home. When the time comes, the wind will marry Xyla gloriously. Fatherin, yes, Nagasawa, you are really capable. Hey, this young man is really good at blowing. Don't think he doesn't know that Ji Chang Guang bought the bicycle. As a young man like Ji Chang's, how much money can he have to buy a bicycle? Ji Chang's, uncle, just wait. I will definitely get the 3-turn and 1-click home by then, properly and steadily. Zhang Lao-san was following his eldest and second brothers to the village entrance with a grimace. What he said was like water being thrown out, not to mention that his big brother, who was very capable of beating him, heard it. No matter how unhappy Zhang Lao-san was in his heart and how much he wanted to regret it, he had to carry it with him for the sake of family harmony, not to be beaten. With the private money that I finally saved, I went to town with my 2 brothers to buy cloth. Why is he so miserable? So miserable. Ever since I was a child, I have watched Ji Chang's enjoy and drink hot food. Ji Chang's is his parents' little cotton-padded brother's big quilt. He should work less, and his 2 older brothers would treat him like a nose or an eye. His parents would say they love him the most and they would ask him to step aside when his nephews and nieces are born. He is so old and still can't get a wife. The eldest brother and the second brother always say that his parents favor him, so why don't they think that all the money at home is used for them to find a wife? He is so handsome and has such good conduct, but he can only be a bachelor. Brother Ji Chang's gave him a bicycle. What happened to Ji Chang's carrying something? What about him? His 2 brothers only gave him fists. If his eldest and second brothers also buy him bicycles, let alone let him carry some things, just let him support them as ancestors. With his head downcast and his face drooping, he passed by An's courtyard and heard the voice of his familiar enemy, what he thought was his enemy. Oh! What are you bragging about? Zhang Lao-san, who just now felt that his life was all gloomy and didn't want to say a word, immediately became energetic. He raised his head and chin, and skillfully pointed his nostrils towards Ji Chang's, who was eating in the courtyard. Tisk, it's still 3 times. Your elder brother bought you even the bicycle. What's the matter? Isn't it enough to squeeze your brother? Ji Chang's finished the food in his mouth slowly, then turned around and said calmly, who said I want my eldest brother to buy it for me? I have to buy it based on my own ability. Feng Guang marries my Xiaolu. Zhang Laosan opened his mouth to ridicule, but before the words came out, Ji Chang's threw out, "But it's normal for you to misunderstand. After all, you rely on your brother. Of course, everyone depends on your brother. By the way, are you going to buy fabrics with your brother? It seems you are not so heartless." Zhang Laosan. He finally managed to forget about losing the small treasury by attacking Ji Chang's. This sentence was like a sword stabbed into his chest. And that damn Ji Chang's who was sitting in the yard actually went on to say, "I can understand if you think I'm bragging. After all, there's no girl who doesn't like you, so you can't understand the joy of a man who plans to work hard when he's getting married." Whoosh. Another sword. Zhang Laosan gritted his teeth angrily. Of course it sounds nice if you just talk about it. Who believes that you can make it happen without relying on your brother or your parents? He confidently asked An's father, "Uncle, do you believe him?" "Father An, I believe it, but I definitely don't believe it." But this is his future son-in-law. Young people need encouragement. And of course he had to maintain his family's face in front of outsiders. He nodded with an affirmative look on his face. "I believe it." Zhang Laosan. "What the hell?" "Correct. Father An is old and must have been deceived." He went to ask Anzialu again, "Anzialu, you are a high school student, do you believe Ji Chang's lies?" "He lied to you." "Don't I know who he is?" There was a faint anger in Anzialu's eyes, and she was a little disgusted with Zhang Laosan who spoke ill of her fiancé in this way. When he turned his head to look at Ji Chang's, the anger in his eyes turned into admiration. He smiled and nodded, indicating that he believed it. An's mother in the house heard the noise and shouted through the window, "I also believe in Nagasawa, Nagasawa can definitely do it." Zhang Laosan. What happened to this world? Are all these people blind? Ji Chang smiled and said, "Everyone believes in me, but this is normal. After all, strength lies here. I plan to bring something to my brother's house tomorrow to see him. After all, he is so good to me, and I should treat him well. I have thought about it. When my eldest brother has a child, I will make all their malted milk. After all, they are my nieces and nephews. As a brother-in-law, of course I must treat them well." When this was said, Anzialu was the only one in the courtyard and outside the courtyard who believed it. She thought, "It seems that Nagasawa likes children very much. That's good, she likes kids too." An's father thought that Ji Chang said this because he was angry with Zhang Laosan. Zhang Laosan still thinks he is bragging. Before he could laugh sarcastically and say something like, "Then I'll wait and see if you will do this when your nephew or niece is born," he saw Ji Chang smiling at him maliciously. This guy seemed to remember something and clapped his hands. "Zhang Laosan, your two brothers seem to be very kind to you. You seem to have 3 nephews and 2 nieces in total, right?" The malicious smile on his face grew wider. "As an uncle, you don't want to buy anything for them?" Zhang Laosan. He didn't dare to look back at his 2 brothers. He could only hesitate and say, I have no money." "Why do you have no money? Aren't your parents always giving you money? Last week you showed off to me how much money you have, and you said that your family loves you the most. Look at you, your 2 brothers love you so much. Don't you even have money to buy some food for your nieces and nephews?" Ji Chang shook his head. "Hey, forget it, don't force it. After all, it's so rare for a brother like me to be kind to me and me to be kind to him. Even if your brother helps you every time you go to the fields, you work less and eat much. After all, they are brothers. They don't care if you have money and don't buy things for your nieces and nephews." After saying that, he paused and nodded firmly, "Yes, I won't care." Zhang Laosan. If you don't care, there will be ghosts. His parents secretly gave him money without telling his 2 brothers, so he just showed off. As a result, today, the car actually overturned. He simply didn't dare to look back at his two brothers. I always feel like I want to experience a mixed male-male doubles game today. Ji Chang's was still talking in the yard, rattles, small candies, children's shoes, small hats, these are not expensive, and they are what a qualified uncle should buy. After all, my brother has always helped me, and my parents he also favors me. As a younger brother, of course I have to favor my brother in order to be fair. As he muttered, Zhang Laosan could clearly feel the pressure gradually lowering on the two brothers behind him. He couldn't bear it. Ji Chang's you. Huh? What's wrong? Ji Chang's raised his head with an innocent face. I'm talking about what I want to buy for my nephew and niece. What did you ask me to do? Zhang Laosan. He took a deep breath, endured the pain, and gritted his teeth. These, I will also buy them for my nieces and nephews. Brother Zhang's face suddenly showed a smile, and one of them put an arm on his younger brother's shoulders. Little brother, you are so kind, you deserve our love for you. Ji Chang's clapped his hands in unison. What a deep brotherhood. Zhang Laosan looked at the strong arms of his eldest and second brothers, and showed a smile that was uglier than crying. Yes, we have a deep love for each other as brothers. Why can't he think about it and come to provoke Ji Chang's? It's better now. I originally had some cloth left after I bought it, but now there's not a bit left. Seeing Zhang Laosan weakly following his two brothers with an indescribable smile like a dead dog, Ji Chang's felt that this guy would not dare to beep in the village again in the short term. He turned to An's father and smiled. Come on, uncle, don't pay attention to him, let's continue eating. After eating and drinking, he was about to get money. Ji Chang's didn't just randomly create a worker position. But serious nonsense. After all, it's unlikely that he could leap forward in one fell swoop, but if we use workers as steps to climb up step by step, it's still easy to believe. After dinner, Ji Chang's left. He has to go to Uncle Ji Chi's to buy some mountain goods, and then go to the Cotter community to sell some, earn some travel expenses and starting capital, and go to the Magic City for a tour. An's father, on the other hand, took the food to the house to feed his wife. An's mother was in a very good mood. While eating, she muttered, it seems that we, Xiaolu, are quite lucky. We can still have 3 rings and 1 ring when we get married. We are the only one in the village. Father An, you believe it? An's mother, of course, I heard it all. You said he had a future, and didn't you believe it? Father An. He was bragging in conjunction with Ji Chang's. An's mother was still there. I didn't expect that this child with such a naughty temperament could actually be quite promising. Xiaolu will marry well, so I feel relieved. Father An, actually, it's quite difficult to turn 3 times and ring a bell. We're getting married in 2 months. It's too late. How could it be possible? Nagasawa was so sure that it would be in time. An's mother's eyes were full of longing. I heard it all. What he said was so sincere. He is such a good boy. And Xiaolu happened to come in and blushed when she heard this. An's mother smiled and asked her daughter, Xiaolu, you also think Nagasawa has a future, right? And Xiaolu blushed and nodded sheepishly. An's father looked at the 2 women who looked sure. Isn't this fooling outsiders? Why did you also fool your own people into it? Anyway, he definitely didn't believe it. 3 rotations and 1 sound in 2 months, how is this possible? It's impossible. Zhang Laosan didn't believe it either. But this time he was smarter. He didn't come forward directly. Instead, he spread the news first, and then hid behind himself, laughing and listening to other people discussing the matter. Do you believe this? With Ji Chang's temper, let alone being promoted if he does well, they might kick him out after only 2 days of work. It's normal for young people to talk nonsense. His parents don't believe it. Then Ji Changs came back and said that the factory director recommended him to a state-owned enterprise in Shanghai. Everyone. If it's fake, it must be fake. Zhang Laosan stood up firmly this time to fight against counterfeiting. I don't believe it. Ji Changs must be fooling people. I will go to the city today to see if Ji Changs is really working as a worker. He was the only one from the anti-counterfeiting team who went to Ji's house aggressively, but found out from Ji's father and mother that Ji Changs had left home and gone to the magical city. Zhang Laosan, it must be fake anyway. Ji Changs. How can that be possible? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Then, 2 months later, when Zhang Laosan was still insisting on his efforts to fight against the fake captain's name, he got the news that Ji Changs was back. With 3 turns and 1 ring. The person who told him the news said, Laosan, it seems that Ji Changs is really promising. How about we ask him how he makes money? They are all from the same village. They call each other brother, and they pull their feelings. Maybe I'm happy to give you a hand. Zhang Laosan, bah. He is rubbish. I don't even ask him anything about heaven and earth. He looked for it without believing in evil, and happened to see Ji Changs standing at the door of Ji's house, saying to the people who got the news and came to watch the excitement. The factory director thought I did a good job and gave me the purchasing task. I can't do it alone. I just want to find someone who is talkative, easygoing, and not afraid of things to do with me. Zhang Laosan curled his lips and said, Tisk, after making so many demands, don't you just want to be thick-skinned? Ji Changs, 20 yuan a month. The disdain on Zhang Laosan's face froze. He quickly squeezed past, me. Find me. Ji Changs looked at him with disgust, you. Zhang Laosan nodded wildly, yes, I'm a sharp talker and I'm not afraid of life. Ji Changs, but our relationship. Zhang Laosan, our relationship is so good. It's so good. He forced out a flattering smile and stepped forward to help Ji Chang's shoulders attentively. Brother. You will be my brother from now on. You really want to do it with me? Ji Changs asked again, aren't you always unconvinced by me? No, that's because I was blind before. Brother Nagasawa, don't care about me. You are the nicest person, I admire you the most and want to follow you. Looking at Zhang Laosan's expectant and flattering face, Ji Changs spread his hands. It seems that people's excellence cannot be concealed. Even you are impressed by my kindness. This is the power of character. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhongmao. Chapter 13. Among the many competitors, Zhang Laosan stood out with his rich and shameless experience, and successfully rose to the top by flattering others. After all, Ji Changs is looking for a younger brother who can be shameless, thick-skinned, and Zhang Laosan perfectly performed on the spot how he meets this condition. After hearing that Ji Changs agreed to let him work together, his face was filled with joy and he waved to the others. It's time to leave. Let's all leave. My brother Nagasawa has just come back. He must be exhausted along the way. Let him have a good rest. Other people. No, they haven't figured it out yet. Isn't Ji Changs a loser? Why is it so powerful all of a sudden? And Zhang Laosan. Don't they want to deal with each other? But Ji Changs had just come back, and they were too embarrassed to ask questions, so they all dispersed. For a time, only Ji Changs, Ji's parents, and Zhang Laosan were left in front of the Ji family. Ji's father and Ji's mother were still too confused to react. My son has become successful, which is a good thing. But the promising son is Nagasawa, why do they think it is so magical? If the promising person was Ji Changguang, Ji's parents would definitely be shocked, but they wouldn't be like this. I can't believe it at all. This is their parents' legacy. How could Nagasawa have any future? It doesn't make sense. Ji Changs also knew that they would be confused, so he simply cleared the place first and looked at Zhang Lao-san. You go back first. Zhang Lao-san worked hard to maintain the setting of if Brother Nagasawa asks me to go east, I will not go west. If Brother Nagasawa asks me to go home, I will never stay here. He laughed and ran out. Halfway through, he turned back and asked, Brother Nagasawa, do you have any instructions so I can prepare in advance? Ji Changs was reminded. He waved to Zhang Lao-san, yes, come here, and I'll tell you. Zhang Lao-san ran over quickly, and Ji Changs whispered in his ear. Xiaolu and I are getting married. When we get married, you will mix in the crowd and say that Xiaolu and I are talented and good looking, and we are a perfect match. I make more money, Xiaolu has a good education, I am handsome, and Xiaolu is naturally beautiful. We are all kind-hearted, hard-working, simple, love the party, the country, and the people, and we will be happy in the future. Zhang Lao-san. Remember, you must blend in with the crowd, and you must change your voice to make people think these words are shouted by different people. Zhang Lao-san. But, what's the use of this? Ji Changs knocked him on the head, you are stupid or not, of course it will be useful. This will make me look more respectable. Zhang Lao-san. He didn't dare to go against the wishes of his parents, so he could only look at Ji Changs with a strange expression. Brother Changs, are you really going to do this? Isn't it a little weird? Ji Changs looked serious. Do you think I asked you to do this for myself? Zhang Lao-san, isn't it? Of course not. Ji Changs put his arms around his shoulders and analyzed with him. Did I just say that the person I'm looking for must be a talkative person and not afraid of strangers? Zhang Lao-san nodded blankly, yes. Ji Changs, how do I know that you are really qualified? What if you say you are, but in fact you are not? Zhang Lao-san, but we grew up together. You know very well what kind of person I am. Ji Changs smiled evilly. Really? Then why can't you tell me off every time? Zhang Lao-san. Yes, it seemed like every time he met Ji Changs, the outcome would be tragic. But I'm really good at it. Really, if you don't believe me, just ask others, they all know. Xiaosanzan. Ji Changs smiled angrily, whether you can follow me or not depends not on what others say about you, but on what I see in you. If you don't confirm it in front of me, how can I trust you? How can I entrust you with this good job of 20 yuan a month? Zhang Lao-san thoughtfully nodded, yes, Brother Nagasawa, you are right. Ji Changs continued, besides, do you think purchasing is easy? What if I take you there, but you are too thin-skinned to speak up and lose your job? Following his words, Zhang Lao-san's expression immediately became tense. 20 yuan a month. Even if he loses his IQ, he can't lose this job. Ji Changs, we grew up in the same village after all. Of course I can't just watch you lose this job, so. He clapped his hands and said, I just wanted to kindly train you and let you practice your eloquence and adaptability, so that you don't follow me to the magic city and be driven back in despair. Zhang Lao-san suddenly realized, Brother Changs, I didn't expect you to have such good intentions. Ji Changs nodded firmly, as long as you understand. After Zhang Lao-san thought about it clearly, he felt ashamed in his heart. He was trying to please Ji Changs like this because of money. When Ji Changs didn't come back, he was always making noises in the village. Ji Changs was a liar. He must have been fooling people by saying he was going to the magic city. As a result, when Ji Changs came back, not only did he not argue with him, nor did he give him work, but he also helped him practice his eloquence. He actually used such an important occasion as a wedding to exercise. Neither of his two brothers were as kind to him as Ji Chang's was. Brother Nagasawa. The more I thought about it, the more moved I became. For a moment, Zhang Laosan looked at Ji Chang's with gratitude in his eyes. Ji Chang's patted him on the shoulder. Good brother, go ahead, go home and practice how to make different people's voices, and think of more words to praise me and Xiaolu. Zhang Laosan's face was full of fighting spirit. Brother Nagasawa, you are so kind to me, I will never betray your trust. He left with high spirits, and when he was ready to go home, he would practice 100 ways to praise others in return for Ji Chang's who was so kind to him. Ji Chang stood there and watched him walk away. Behind him, Ji Chang's mother asked him, Changs, what did you say to him? Oh, nothing. He turned back and smiled at Ji Mu. I saw that he was stupid, so I just lied to him. Ji's mother didn't hear clearly. She just pulled her son into the house quickly, closed the door again, and then asked. Nagaze, tell mom, what's going on, how do you earn your money? Ji Chang's blinked with an innocent look on his face. I just earned it by going to the Magic City. Don't coax me. How can I not know you? You can eat and drink, but not work. How could the factory director introduce you to work in a big city? I told you to explain it to me before, but it turned out you turned your back and ran away. Ji Chang still looked confident. He didn't lie either. He did earn that money by going to the Magic City. Now only the devil has no chance to say this. Of course he wants to go to the devil's capital. Ji Chang's worked very hard to purchase goods in the Magic City, and then went to other cities to sell goods like a thief. Later, he felt it was too hard, so he always purchased goods first, then went to other cities to pretend to buy things. He squatted behind the person who came to sell things and persuaded them to buy goods from him. As for selling for twice the principal amount. Magic City. What a big city. Of course things coming out of here are more expensive. Ji's mother pulled her son into the yard, and then pulled Ji's father, who was smoking cigarettes, over, in front of your father and me. Tell me clearly how you earned this money. She was very keen. She looked left and right first, and then asked in a low voice with a suspicious look on her face, you didn't do anything illegal, did you? Ji Chang's expression remained unchanged. Mom, what are you talking about? How could you say that about your own son? He sat down on the bench and said confidently, I am what I am today because of my good character. Ji's mother. Father Ji, bada bada. Ji Chang's, this is what happened. Didn't I enter the factory before? And I am such a kind person. I saw other workers not taking a break even when they had rest time. I was kind-hearted, so I took a rest and had a meal for them. When I was there, I saw that everyone only served one bowl of rice. I was kind-hearted and was afraid that the rice would not be finished and wasted, so I ate 3 bowls at one meal. He clapped his hands. Then, our factory director said that his factory was small and the food was not enough. But he was grateful to me, so he recommended me to go to a big factory in Shanghai, where the food can be eaten in the open. Father Ji, bada, ba, ba. Mother Ji. She translated Ji Chang's words. It was after he entered the factory that he ate too much even if he didn't work. The factory director was too embarrassed to fire him because he had helped before, so he asked him to go to a large factory in Shanghai. Sure enough, it was something her son could do. She looked at her youngest son sitting in front of her. This darling still looked confident. Mom, tell me, is it because of my own efforts that I can go to a state-owned enterprise in Shanghai? Ji Mu, probably, should, forget it. Ji's father smoked dry cigarettes. Ba, 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 ba. Mother Ji asked again, then even if you went to Magic City, why did you come back with so much money all of a sudden? Are the wages of workers in Magic City so high? Of course not. Ji Chang's is a very principled person and he never tells lies that will be exposed. He replied, Mom, what you are thinking is too good. The wages in Magic City are higher than ours, but not much higher. But after I went to Magic City, the factory manager saw that I looked energetic, so he let me I'll do the purchasing and then take care of the sales. There is a commission for the sale. Ji's mother was confused, what is commission? Ji's father, who had been quietly smoking dry cigarettes, said, if he sells something for 1 yuan, he will be given 1 cent, and if he sells 2 items, he will be given 2 cents. Ji Chang's, yes, that's it. The expression on Ji's mother's face immediately turned panicked, selling things. Are you selling things privately? Isn't that speculation? Nagasawa, don't let anyone arrest you. Mom doesn't need money but she wants you to treat her well. Hey, Ji Chang's explained, now the national policy has changed again. Selling things by yourself is not considered speculation, but now it is only tried in the Magic City. We don't have it here yet, so in the Magic City, it is legal. Ji Mu, ah. Father Ji took a puff of his cigarette and said, he's just speculating but he won't be caught. Ji's mother understood. After she felt relieved, she felt something was wrong, so you sold too much. It's impossible. How can you do this? Why can't she believe it so much? Her son, if he can sit, he will never stand, and if he can lie down, he will never sit. How can I be so diligent in selling goods if I have always been so lazy to cook them? Ji Chang's chuckled, hey, you've seen through all this, and waved his hand. I didn't want to sell either, but people told me that I couldn't continue to work there if I couldn't sell a certain amount. Then I thought of a way. I found a few people and told them that I would give them a commission and let them sell it for me, they'll pay half, and the remaining half will be mine. Ji's mother turned the words around in her mind, but still couldn't figure it out, what do you mean? Father Ji put down his dry cigarette, that is to say, he told others that he would get a commission, and then they sold clothes for him. He gave them half of his commission. If someone else sells 1 piece, isn't it equivalent to him selling 1? He took the commission. Give half to others, and keep half for yourself. That's why we in Nagasawa are rich even if we don't work. Ji's mother felt dizzy after hearing this, but she persisted and found the key point, that's not right. Then isn't Nagasawa taking advantage of a small loophole? Then shouldn't work be done in a down-to-earth manner? Ji's father smoked a dry cigarette, he is not taking advantage of small loopholes, he is smart. Ji Chang's nodded, yes. I'm smart. Ji's father exhaled a puff of cigarette and showed a happy smile. This child follows his father. Nonsense. Ji's mother also came to her senses, and immediately slapped her thigh, of course the son I gave birth to will follow me. I, Nagasawa, will obviously follow my smart appearance. Ji Chang's looked at Ji's father. Father Ji, bada bada. Watch what I do. Y/N mom is right, you can do whatever she wants. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhongmao. Chapter 14. Ji Chang's, who followed his mother, received treatment like an emperor after explaining his source of income. Ji's mother was overjoyed to know that her son had not committed any crime and had made a lot of money. Ji Chang's darling son became even more darling. Nagaze, are you tired? Do you want to take a nap? Are you thirsty? Mom will give you some water. Are you hungry? Your brother brought food again last time. I'll bring it to you. Ji's father moved a bench and sat at the door smoking a dry cigarette, ba ba ba. Ji Chang's was reminded, stretched, and said, Mom, I made a lot this time, and I happen to be free today. Why don't I go to the city and repay the money my brother gave me to buy the bicycle? Ji's mother was stunned, pay back the money? Didn't he say that this bike was given to you? Since Ji Changguang said those words last time, the anger in Ji's mother's heart has gradually dissipated. In addition, Ji Changguang has brought Lu Huifen back to visit her several times in the past 2 months. Lu Huifen felt that her mother-in-law was treating her well. Ji's mother thought that Lu Huifen was quite filial to her mother-in-law. The relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law has reached great harmony. She was no longer angry, and naturally had no problem with Ji Chang's paying back the money. Just because I assumed that my son was someone who didn't expect this, shameless and confident to take advantage, I didn't expect Ji Chang's to pay back the money. As a result, her youngest son actually offered to pay back the money. The sun comes out in the west. Ji Chang's looked annoyed at being underestimated. Mom, what's your expression? Do you think I won't give my brother money? I didn't give it before, because I didn't have money. Now that I have money, of course I have to give it. I am the kind of person who likes to take advantage, especially of his own brothers. Mother Ji. How to say it? Of course she didn't want to discredit her son. But so be it. Didn't Nagasawa like to take advantage of the things he did before? Ji Chang spoke righteously. I have long said that I will repay my brother when I become successful. Now that I have money, of course I must keep my word. And I not only have to bring money, but I also have to buy some things so that I don't lose face. I think Uncle Lu and I can talk to each other quite well. I can also play chess with him and talk. By the way, Mom. My Uncle Liu's sister-in-law's younger son is the one with the big mole under his nose. Is he a doctor? Ji's mother couldn't understand why the topic turned to this while talking. She recalled it and nodded. Yes, she is still working in the hospital. After answering, she felt something was wrong again. What do you want to do? Ji's father said, he wants to show Xiaolu a nude. Ji's mother suddenly realized. She just said, with Ji Chang's temper, how could he take the initiative to come to his door to give money and gifts? It must be someone who is asking for help. She twisted her face, suddenly realized, and asked Ji's father, how come you know everything? Father Ji said, I met Nagasawa at the entrance of the village and chatted with him while returning. Mother Ji, why didn't I know? When her family came to the door, she came forward to greet her. Father Ji was silent for a few seconds. He replied rather resentfully, I came back with him, and I was standing next to him at the time. Then he seemed to have turned into a transparent person, watching his wife hugging another man's sweetheart and screaming non-stop, without even batting an eyelid at him. Ji Mu, then why don't you say anything? You know how to smoke every day. The first thing people see when they see you is definitely not you as a person, but your cigarette. She turned to look at her son again, with a loving expression on her face. It's better for me, Nagasawa. I don't smoke, I'm sensible, I can make money, and I can even love my wife. Look, how good Nagasawa is. The first thing I do when I make money is to give his wife is seeing a doctor. He looked at his son with a cheerful face, but looked at his husband with a look of disgust. Look at you again. When did you think of me for the first time? Ji's father, Nagasawa, came to our house as soon as he came back. When did he miss his wife for the first time? Isn't that right? Ji's mother gave him a sideways glance. I, Nagasawa, am filial, can't I? Ji's father. Forget it, he might as well smoke. When Ji's mother looked at Ji Chang's, her face suddenly changed, and she praised with a smile, my mother Ji is a good person, filial and loving to her daughter-in-law. Mom knows that if you follow her, it's not like your father and your brother. I don't know how to love my wife at all. She was also upset that she had a problem with her daughter-in-law because of Ji Changguang's wrong message. Ji Chang's patted his chest without any guilt. That's right, I was taught by my mother. Don't worry, Mom, I will definitely be good to my wife. I want both brother and father to know that there are real men in our Ji family. Hey. What a good son. Ji's mother felt proud and waved her hand, then take the money to buy something and go to your brother's house, just in time to show it to your sister-in-law's house. Our family did not marry their family just to make your brother a soft meal. Ji Chang's nodded. Thinking of something again, hesitation appeared on his face. Ji's mother saw him and asked him, "What's wrong?" Ji Chang's, "But mom, according to what you taught me, I should go to Xiaolu's house in the afternoon. This is how I love my wife. Besides, her grandma is not good to his family. Fortunately, I was smart enough to scare her last time. I originally wanted to go for a walk today, but I want to go to Big Brother's place." Such a thing. Ji's mother felt that her son was still too young and not as experienced as she was. She raised her chin, "Don't worry, go to your brother's house. I'll go to Xiaolu's house. You guys are getting married. Xiaolu's mother and I will compare the bride price." Ji Chang's readily agreed, "Okay, mom, it's up to you." Seeing that he didn't mention anything about asking her to go to Xiaolu's house to have a better attitude, Ji's mother felt at the same time, "My son really only values me as a mother," and at the same time, she felt, "This kid is not good, he must love his wife, that's right." It was such a proud and tangled decision. "It's okay, don't mention her son, just think about it. Anyway, she will prove with her actions that she is a good mother-in-law. She and Lu Huifen had a bad relationship before, and it was all because of Ji Changguang, a little brat. She is a very kind person. Whether it is facing my son or my daughter-in-law, it is as warm as spring." When Ji Chang saw Ji's mother, she didn't look like she was going to meet her future daughter-in-law and in-laws, but like she was going to fight. He counted the money in his pocket, took out half of it and handed it to Ji's mother. "Mom, this money is for you." Ji's mother didn't want it. "This is your fault." She was about to say that this is your hard-earned money and you don't want it, but she suddenly realized that something was wrong. Her son didn't work very hard either. She changed her mind again. "This is your own money, you keep it to spend." "I'll just keep half of it. The remaining half, in addition to repaying my brother's money, will be used to treat Xiaolu's eyes. If I don't give half to you, think about how you raised me and I made money just giving Xiaolu flowers makes me feel very uncomfortable." Mother Ji was moved. She was really moved. This is her good son. How can he be like that bastard Ji Changguang? After marrying his wife, he doesn't care about his mother or his wife. Look at her Nagasawa, she makes money and gives half of it back to her parents. How filial. Completely ignoring the fact that Ji Changguang also gave half of his salary every month, Ji's mother took the money with a face full of emotion. "Nagaze, my damn good son." Ji Chang struck while the iron was hot and said a set of sweet words, "Mom, you are so kind to me. I like Mom the most. No one likes you more than me." Ji Mu's heart felt like fireworks exploding. Bang 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 with joy. Look at her son, how filial, sensible and well-spoken he is. The expression on her face softened 800 degrees, and her voice was as gentle as if it could drip water. "Really, you have a sweet mouth, and Mom likes you the most." Ji's father, who was smoking a dry cigarette alone, saw this scene and was thoughtful as he clicked. Waiting for Ji Chang's to leave with the remaining half of the money. Only Ji's father and Ji's mother were left in the yard. Ji's mother was counting the money with a happy face, and she became more and more happy as she counted. Ji's father stood up smoking a dry cigarette. I looked around, but there was no one there. He stepped forward with a serious look on his face and said to Ji's mother, who was counting money, "Daughter-in-law." "What for?" "Father Ji, I like you the most. No one likes you more than me." Ji's mother stopped counting the money and raised her head to look at her husband. Father Ji took a puff of dry cigarette, feeling confident. Ji's mother suddenly changed her face. "Fart. The one who likes me the most is obviously me, Nagasawa. Ji's father. Women are so difficult to understand. Ji Chang's entered the city with the money in his pocket. This time, he didn't carry pheasants or fish, but directly bought a can of malted milk. Malted milk powder can be said to be the weapon of this era. No matter who you meet, they are old people, women, children, healthy adults. If you bring malted milk, people will think you are sincere. It's just too expensive, and most people won't do it this way. Ji Chang's held the malted milk in his arms and knocked on Liu's door. Liu Huifen happened to get off work not long ago. She opened the door and saw him. The smile on her face just rose when she saw the brother-in-law in front of her putting the malted milk in his hand into her hand. Sister-in-law, I'm here to pay you back. Pay back the money. What to pay back? Whose money should I pay back? Liu Huifen had speculation about paying back the bicycle, but she couldn't believe it. Ji Chang's will take the initiative to pay back the money, let's just say it's fake. Ji Chang Guang also heard the noise. He stood up and saw that it was Ji Chang's. A smile immediately appeared on his face. Chang's, why are you here? Come give you money. Ji Chang's went straight to the point, took out the money for the bicycle that he had counted before from his pocket, and put it directly into the hands of Ji Chang Guang, who came over. Brother, just click and see if it's right. Ji Chang Guang looked down at the money and was confused. Where did you get this money? I earned it from the Magic City. Ji Chang's looked confident. Didn't I go to work in the Magic City before? Brother, I said before that I will definitely repay you when I have money. Ji Chang Guang held the money he thought he would never get back and looked at his brother in front of him blankly. Ji Chang's was bragging about himself. Although I sometimes seem a little out of tune, I am a person who values friendship, and our relationship as brothers is so deep. As soon as I have money, I can't even spend it myself, so I will give it to you as soon as possible. He added, Mom, too, is urging me to give it to you. Ji Chang Guang was extremely moved. Mom, Dad, brother. It turned out that they were so kind to him and thought of him so much. The ends of his eyes were red with emotion, and he hugged his younger brother in front of him. He was a big and thick man, and his voice was trembling when he spoke with excitement. Nagaze. You are so kind to me. Liu Huifen, who saw the scene, said. Although she has no problem with her brother-in-law, I am also happy that my brother-in-law is willing to take the initiative to repay the money. But husband, please wake up, husband. This money is originally theirs. Ji Chang's should have paid back the money. Obviously, the current situation is that Ji Chang's has changed from a rogue behavior to what a normal person should do. Why can Ji Chang Guang act like Ji Chang's has great kindness to their family? I really don't understand. Ji Chang's, who was being held, rested his head on his elder brother's shoulder and smiled at Liu Huifen, who was standing in front of him. Sister-in-law, I give this malted milk to my uncle and aunt. I heard that older people drink this best, so I went to buy it specially. Liu Huifen was startled, and then realized that what Ji Chang's had given her before was actually malted milk. Malted milk. Ji Chang's actually bought such expensive malted milk for her parents? Her first reaction was to refuse. No, no, I'm so embarrassed. It's okay, sister-in-law, just take it. A sister-in-law is like a mother. You used to be so good to me and treated me like a younger brother. My brother remembers it in his heart. I didn't have any money before, but now I have made money. Of course I have to. I bought something for you. Liu Huifen felt guilty. She wasn't very kind to Ji Chang's before. I still scold this brother-in-law in my heart. Unexpectedly, in Ji Chang's eyes, her image has always been such a good one. Ji Chang's was still saying, sister-in-law, I also bought some beautiful clothes from Shanghai Magic City. They are all popular styles and are especially suitable for you. I will bring them to you in a moment. The point is, he didn't just buy some. He got a batch. The Magic City has always been much more fashionable than other cities. These clothes can definitely be sold at double or even triple the price in their city. Even so, the supply is still in short supply. Naturally, Lu Huifen didn't know that Ji Chang's bought it specially for her, so she felt guilty and moved. Nagasawa was so kind to her, but she missed him so much. Holding the malted milk in her arms, she felt that she was really a fool who thought her brother-in-law was uneducated, a scoundrel, and rubbish. She was very moved. Nagaze, you are so kind to me, thank you. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhonmao. Chapter 15. Ji Chang's, who came with malted milk and money, greatly increased his popularity in the Lu family. Liu's father and mother were away, so the couple entertained him. Lu Huifen happily cooked the vegetables, especially adding oil and salt, and the three of them started eating. They didn't have any rules about eating, talking and sleeping. Ji Changguang asked his brother how he had made so much money in just 2 months. Ji Changguang told them what he had said to his father and mother. Ji Changguang and Lu Huifen. How to say? They both know how hard it is to make money. As a result, Ji Chang's actually made so much money just by being lazy. They thought about it in their minds and felt that the logic was correct. But deep down, why do I feel so weird? Ji Chang still said blatantly, I relied on my personal efforts and my diligence and simplicity to earn so much money. Now that I am about to get married, why don't I come back? The expressions of Ji Changguang and Lu Huifen were both indescribable. Although they all feel very good about this younger brother now. But for the things Ji Chang's did, they couldn't really praise him for being diligent and simple without conscience. It was Lu Huifen who opened her mouth first and praised with a smile, Nagaze is still smart. I told you a long time ago that you must be promising. Ji Chang smiled and ate his food, that's right. I've known since I was a child that I had potential, and I also knew that I would make a lot of money. Otherwise, why wouldn't I have worked very hard for so many years? Lu Huifen, does it have anything to do with the fact that you make a lot of money and you don't work? Of course. Ji Chang's counted on his fingers and said to them, I have a lot of potential, right? My mother has told me since I was a child that if I am smart, I will definitely make a lot of money in the future, right? Ji Changguang nodded and testified for his brother, yes, Mom often says that. As he spoke, he added, but my mother told me the same thing when I was a child. One thing I often say is, Changguang, you are as smart as your mother. When you grow up and make a lot of money, you must be filial to me and your father. Brother, are you hopeless now? Ji Chang's calculated for him, look at you, you have food and drink, you are a worker, you can get more than 20 wages every month, you have such a beautiful daughter-in-law like my sister-in-law, and such a good father-in-law and mother-in-law like my uncle. You are simply a winner in life. Ji Changguang straightened his chest involuntarily when he said that. Is he that powerful? Is he so powerful? Lu Huifen, who was praised for her beauty next to her, blushed and touched her cheek. Really, this kid Nagasawa talks nonsense, and what he says is really embarrassing. Ji Chang's ate a peanut and continued to brag, Mom is right, both of us have a lot of potential. I have known since I was a child that I would have a big future. I can earn at least a few hundred yuan a month. So, I don't work, don't go to the ground, don't do anything. Lu Huifen, who was shy and proud. What do you say? Ji Chang's looked confident and stretched out his hand to Lu Huifen, sister-in-law, look at my hand. Lu Huifen looked over. Because these hands are not doing farm work and not exposed to the sun, they have become slender and fair, with well-defined joints, and they are quite good looking. What's wrong with your hand? Ji Chang's, my hands can make a lot of money. If I use them to do farm work, wouldn't it be a waste? Lu Huifen. It seems to make sense. Ji Changguang suddenly realized, is that why you always stay away from work? Ji Changs, what does it mean to be secretive? I am an above-board person, with my back to the sun and my face to the sky every day. I don't even get $1 for my work in a day. Why should I waste my energy? Isn't that a waste of time? He sat up straight, with a proud face on his face. I want to make a lot of money. Why should I tire myself out for such a small amount of money? Ji Changguang thought about it and nodded in agreement. Yes, I can't blame you for not working. You talked about you, but you didn't tell me. I thought you were being lazy on purpose. Ji Changs, I've said it many times, but you don't believe it? Ji Changguang recalled it and found that he had indeed said it many times. Why don't I just take some money from you and pay it back to you when I'm successful? And what's wrong with me eating too much? When I become successful, my whole family will eat as much as they like. The most common thing they say is that when they become successful in the future, they must be filial to their parents and let them live in a big house and eat chicken, duck, and fish every day. It's just that he always thought that Nagasawa was just sweet talking, and he felt aggrieved because of it. He thought that if he did practical things, Nagasawa would only pay lip service to him. As a result, his parents favored Nagasawa. Now that I think about it, it turns out that Nagasawa was serious. Ji Changguang felt guilty for his small belly and chicken intestines, and put a dish for his brother. So that's it? I blamed you wrongly before. I thought you were just talking big words and didn't even think about paying back. I'll make amends to you, brother. Hey, family brothers, what's the matter? Ji Changs waved generously. I forgive you. Next to her, Lu Huifen was still in shock of being reorganized. For so many years, Ji Changs has been working diligently and lazily, working hard and not working hard, and asking for this and that with all kinds of arrogance. It's not because he is shameless, but because he feels that he will be successful in the future and he can pay back these things. What a magical brain circuit this is. The most awesome one is him. It's actually really promising. And he actually came to pay back the money. Lu Huifen finally figured it out. It turns out that they all wrongly blamed Ji Changs before. He is not shamelessly squeezing his brother and sister-in-law, but he is overconfident in himself. Ji Changs has been patiently waiting for Liu's father to come back. Speaking of which, going to the hospital for medical treatment is a bit troublesome now. I don't want to find a relationship, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to figure out various things. If you are looking for connections, you will be considered by others as having connections. Being a connection person these days is not a good word, and you will be despised by others. It's okay for Ji Changs to be thick-skinned. But Anzialu has a soft temper, and she can't stand this. Ji Changs did not regard this matter as a problem. I was just wondering when Father Lu would come back. Father Lu came back soon. When I came back, after listening to my daughter's words, I found out that Ji Changs was successful and actually came to see them with malted milk. I was very happy. He kept saying, I knew Nagasawa was a promising person. Also very sensible. He was just Ji Changguang's younger brother, so he didn't have to buy anything even if he made money, but he did. Not only did I buy it, I also bought an expensive gift like malted milk. This young man is so sincere and so good at being a good person. Father Lu took Ji Changs and continued to teach him how to play chess affectionately. While playing chess, the two of them chatted. As we talked about relatives on both sides. Ji Changs said, Uncle, although I seem to be making a lot of money now, in fact, it is not easy to make money these days. Except for those with high academic qualifications, such as doctors and teachers, they can go to work as soon as they come out. They have a good reputation and make money. How good it is. Father Lu was reminded and said casually. Speaking of which, my nephew has the same background as you. He became a doctor at a young age. Doctor. Ji Chang's played a chess piece and asked with great interest, then he must be very respected, right? No, there aren't many people in the hospital at all. Ji Chang's had already guessed that everyone had no money now, and hospital charges were relatively expensive. For example, Anzilu's muteness and her mother's illness were all treated at the doctor's clinic in the town. In this way, they spent all their family's savings and only saved Anne's mother. As expected, Liu's father said, that hospital is all about Western medicine, and it's expensive. Most people believe in Chinese medicine and are not willing to go to the hospital. He muttered casually, anyway, my nephew said that he is actually still in the learning stage, but there is no patient for him to learn from. The doctors in their hospital are all idle. As he spoke, he looked around and saw that no one was paying attention to them. He whispered to Ji Chang's, especially in the obstetrics and gynecology department, even the doctor who manages children, there may not be anyone who can come for 10.5 months. After all, there is no future opening yet. For example, if a woman gets some kind of unspeakable disease, or gives birth to a child, she either takes medicine without checking, or she just takes it at home. Few women are willing to take off their clothes for examination in front of a doctor. Neither can female doctors. Ji Chang's nodded to express his understanding. Uncle, otherwise, my fiancée has a high fever and is mute. How about I go to your nephew's place to check on her? Even if she can't be cured, it can still be a favor to my relatives. Father Lu knew about Anzilu, and he also knew that this girl had a bright future, but she contracted a high fever and became mute. He already had a good impression of Ji Chang's, but now that he was willing to take the girl to see a doctor and support his nephew, his impression became even better. This is a favor to his nephew. He readily agreed, thinking that Ji Chang's would be able to handle things and value their family. Otherwise, why would he not go to so many hospitals but choose the hospital where his nephew is? Boy, you are so kind. He couldn't help but said, isn't this a bit too expensive? Going to the hospital costs money. Ji Chang's waved his hand, looking unconcerned. It's okay. He's your uncle and nephew. He's also my brother. I'm helping my brother. It doesn't matter if I spend some money. Father Lu felt that this young man was quite good. He gave a thumbs up. Nagaze, don't worry, my nephew is not the kind of ungrateful person. If you are kind enough to help him, he will definitely be grateful to you. Ji Chang's, who has successfully transformed from an unpopular relative to a dedicated person in medicine, has the 6 characters not seeking fame nor profit written all over his face. I should. Father Lu played a chess game and sighed again. This kid Nagasawa is such a nice person. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhongmao. Chapter 16. Ji Chang's found a doctor and a hospital, played chess with Liu's father and left. Lu Huifen now no longer feels that her brother-in-law is a bastard, shameless, and confident enough to take advantage of them. How could Nagasawa want to take advantage of them? He has obviously always firmly believed that he will be successful in the future, so he takes advantage, but this requires long-term upfront investment. Look, Nagasawa has made money now, shouldn't he just give the money back? And he also gave me something. Ji Chang's was not surprised at all by Lu Huifen's sudden enthusiasm for him. People are like this. If a black dot suddenly appears on a piece of white paper, it will be particularly eye-catching. On the contrary, if a white dot appears on a piece of black paper, everyone will be happy about it and feel that the prodigal will never be able to exchange for gold. Lu Huifen escorted Ji Chang's to the entrance of the alley. A neighbor who lived in the alley saw him and asked out of curiosity, Huifen, who is this? If she had been asked this question before, Lu Huifen would have been embarrassed and answered casually. But now, my brother-in-law. Lu Huifen held out her chest and raised her head, her expression not to mention how proud she was. I work in Shanghai. It's a lot of money a month. I came to see us when I came back this time and bought some malted milk. She deliberately emphasized the words malted milk essence very strongly. Sure enough, as soon as he heard about malted milk, the neighbor's face showed envy. He kept looking at Ji Chang's with eyes full of love. The young man is so promising. He is still young. Does he have a partner? Yes. If it were other people of the same age, they would definitely be embarrassed to be praised like this and asked about their partner, but Ji Chang's would not be at all. He smiled and said, my partner and I are about to get married, just in the past 2 days. Hey, that's a happy event, congratulations. When the neighbor saw that Ji Chang's had a partner, he gave up his intention of introducing him, exchanged a few pleasantries and left. Lu Huifen waited for her to leave, then asked with a surprised look, you are getting married in the next 2 days? Why didn't I listen to you? Isn't it because you and my brother have to go to work that we can't take leave? Ji Chang still had that playful smile on his face. There are a lot of things to do when you get married, so I don't really want to trouble you. In the past, Lu Huifen would have been disgusted when she saw him like this, feeling that her brother-in-law didn't invite them because he didn't treat them as a family. But now not only did she not think so, she felt warm and comforted in her heart. Nagasawa really thinks about them. I would rather my brother and sister-in-law not go when they get married than delay their work. How could there be such a good brother-in-law in the world? Lu Huifen was so moved by her imagination that she quickly said with certainty, don't worry, my brother is getting married, and he will definitely be able to take leave. Tell me the date, and your brother and I will bring gifts to attend. Nagasawa would bring malted milk to see them, and they would definitely bring plenty of gifts to attend his wedding. Ji Chang's, you don't have to waste money, sister-in-law, it's not easy for you and my brother to make money. I didn't have much money before, so you two could just subsidize me. Now that I have money, it's my turn to subsidize you. You kid, be obedient. Lu Huifen patted him with a look of sister-in-law-like mother kindness. We know what you mean, but when you get married, we will definitely bring gifts. Then, okay. Ji Chang's had a reluctant look on his face, and then he thought of something and said to Lu Huifen, sister-in-law, it's okay to be rude or not. I have all my things ready. I just have something I want you to help me with. What's the matter? Just say it, my sister-in-law will definitely do it for you if she can. Ji Chang's, that's Xiaolu. Didn't she have a fever and get sick before? The village has always said this and that. It didn't matter that I didn't go to the Magic City before. Now that I have gone to the Magic City and made money and come back, I'm afraid that people will see my glory. To say something unpleasant. As he spoke, he coughed a few times. Aren't I planning to take Xiaolu to the hospital for a checkup? But this is not something that can be done in a day or two. When we get married, Xiaolu's illness must not be cured yet. I don't care about this, I'm just afraid of what others will say. He said it implicitly, but Lu Huifen already understood. Ji Chang's was afraid that when he got married, someone would think Xiaolu was not good enough for him. She understood instantly and immediately said, don't worry, I will go there when the time comes and I will definitely support Xiaolu. Thinking about it, Lu Huifen quite sighed. Unexpectedly, Ji Chang's is still very dedicated. He usually looks so unreliable, but he is actually quite responsible. But think about his shameless way of taking advantage of him before, and his remarks that she only found out today, I will definitely be successful in the future. This is your early investment. The above one seemed to be nothing. Ji Chang's did not go back immediately after leaving Liu's house. Instead, he went to buy wedding candies first. Wedding candy was very common in later generations. But nowadays, wedding candy is a rare thing, and most people are reluctant to buy it even if they are getting married. Not to mention someone like Ji Chang's, who buys a big bag. Ji Chang's guess was correct. The village was indeed talking a lot because he had made money after returning from the demon city. The people in the village are like this. They don't have bad intentions, but they certainly don't have bad intentions. What's more, people nowadays basically don't have much education. In other words, you don't have your own judgment and three views. Zhang Laosan had previously told people in the village that Ji Chang's couldn't make money and that going to the magic city was definitely a lie. The people in the village also believed it, and they all started saying that Ji Chang's couldn't make any money. Now that he's making money, they don't feel like they've been slapped in the face. Instead, he continued to be led and talked about other things. This rhythm was not brought by Zhang Laosan this time. He is practicing hard at home on how to pretend to be different people and speak. His parents, his two brothers and his sister-in-law, including his nephews and nieces, all know that he is going to the magic city to make money after practicing, and no one can disturb him. They all spoke softly like thieves. If it wasn't Zhang Laosan, it would be someone else. It was Grandma. That's right, after all, except for this guy, no one in the village has any grudge against Anzialu's family anymore. She didn't dare to go to Anjia to do anything since Ji Chang's various magical operations last time. Today, when she found out that Ji Chang's was back, and in a glorious manner, Grandma started to think about it. That's what she thought. In the past, Ji Chang's was an uneducated, lazy gangster who relied on his parents to support him, so it was okay for him to fall in love with Anzialu. But now, Ji Chang's has made his mark. After 3 turns and 1 ring, it was easy to get it. Would you still like Anzialu, a mute? That's definitely not the case. Anyway, she would definitely not do it if it were her. Grandma felt herself shaking again. Anzialu's family is full of cripples, and mutes. Without Ji Chang's support, she can't do whatever she wants. As a result, just when she was about to show off her authority, Ji Mu sprayed her so hard that she became dizzy. Ji's mother's lethality could stun Ji Changguang. Although Ji Changguang himself is not very smart, Grandma is not much better. What's more, Ji's mother grew up in the village, and her ability to curse was much better than Ji Chang's. After a few scoldings, Grandma didn't dare to say a word. Just like that, Mother Ji continued to scold her. Finally, she felt tired of standing at the door and scolded her, so she returned to Anzialu's yard, only to sit on the bench and started to criticize Huai through the low wall. Grandma thinks she is thick-skinned enough. Unexpectedly, not only was she not as good as Ji Chang's, she was also unable to play with Ji Chang's mother. She simply came out of the house and gossiped about Anzialu from her grandma's perspective. It's not that I look down on her, it's just that she is mute now, or to put it mildly, disabled. Ji Chang's liked her before, but now he has gone to the magic city. There are many beautiful girls in the magic city. Ji Chang's now I've made money again, what kind of girl do I want? How can I like Anzialu? Although everyone in the village knows what Grandma is like. But I can't help but what she said really makes sense. Grandma talked about this and that, and the villagers were led astray. They all began to discuss whether Ji Chang's would really abandon Anzialu. It would be too miserable for Anzialu if that happened. But think about it, if it were them, they were young and earned a lot of money, and they would definitely not be happy to marry a mute. What's more, Anzialu has 2 parents who are holding her back. Originally, they all thought that this marriage might not happen. As a result, Ji Chang started from the entrance of the village and scattered wedding candies when he saw someone, with happiness written all over his face. When people asked him, he said, Aren't I going to marry Xiaolu? Let's spread the joy, everyone, please pick it up. The villagers who received the wedding candy were quite embarrassed. Although everyone likes to take advantage, wedding candies are so rare. I'm so sorry, there's no wedding banquet now. It's not easy to catch gifts. It's okay, it's okay. We are all from the same village. Everyone has watched me and Zyla grow up. If you feel sorry for us, just give us your best wishes. He said so, and everyone could only accept it happily. He said a few blessings and then said, "How do you say that? People feel refreshed when happy events happen." It's true. Nagasawa, you feel a lot more energetic just by looking at me. Ji Chang smiled so heartily that one could tell that he was very happy. That's right, I've liked Xiaolu since I was a child, and now I can finally marry her, I'm happy. His serious attitude made the villagers who were still muttering in their hearts feel that they were overthinking. Ji Chang's really likes Xiaolu. Also, Xiaolu used to be the favorite of most of the young boys in the village. They accepted the candies with smiles. When Grandma An strolled over again, she refused to talk about the topic will Ji Chang's abandon Xiaolu. It's easy to take advantage of someone's short hands and eat someone's soft mouth. They took someone's wedding candy, how could they have the nerve to talk behind someone's back? Grandma An. A bunch of cowards. She didn't believe it anyway, and she would definitely say more bad things about Xiaolu when Ji Chang's got married. Even if she can't change Xiaolu's decision to marry a good family, she still feels disgusted. Wedding day. Ji Chang's got up early in the morning, dressed energetically. Ji's father also wiped his pipe clean, and put on the new clothes bought by his younger son with his wife. Mother Ji has been in a daze today, and from time to time she repeats a few words to her husband. You said that both sons are married. In the future, they will all have families, and only the two of us will be left. Father Ji, bada, ba, ba. Ji's mother said with sore eyes, why am I so reluctant to let go? Chang Guang is the same. He won't listen to me after he gets a wife. Chang's is so sensible now, maybe in the future. Father Ji, bada, ba, ba. Ji's mother felt uncomfortable when she said, from now on, Nagasawa will not do whatever I say, but he will do whatever his wife says. Father Ji corrected her, it wasn't you who told Nagaze what to do before. This kid is lazy, and usually they can't handle him. After thinking about it, he added, Xiaolu is mute, she can't speak. Mother Ji. She pinched her husband, but she was no longer sentimental. She went out angrily, her voice became louder, and she pulled Ji Chang's to talk as if she was speaking to him on purpose. Nagaze, get up. Come on, Mom is telling you, when you get married in the future, you must love your wife, don't let your wife be wronged, and don't be like your father when you let her be. Ji Chang's nodded, with an obedient look on his face, I listened to my mother. Seeing that her son was so obedient, the last trace of sadness in Ji's mother's heart faded away. Go ahead, brat, you will be your wife's from now on. Mom, you are so stupid. Ji Chang's laughed at her, it's Xiaolu who married me. She's coming to our house. It's not me who belongs to my wife, but Xiaolu who belongs to our family. You have an extra daughter, aren't you happy? Yes. Ji Mi reacted. It's all the fault of that bastard Ji Changguang. He obviously wanted to marry a daughter-in-law but ended up living in her natal family, which caused her to be led astray. It was obviously that good kid Xiaolu who came to their house, so she couldn't be sentimental. Ji's mother suddenly straightened her back and straightened her chest, looking very high-spirited. Let's go. Mom will take you to pick up your wife. Nowadays, many old marriage customs are difficult to deal with. They kept it simple and directly invited people from the village who could play the suana. Ji Chang's took the lead and led a group of people to play the suana and happily headed towards An's home. There were also things being carried behind and someone pushing a bicycle to show that they valued the woman. After successfully picking up the bride, the group arrived at G's house without any horses or carriages. Anzialu wore a red dress today, which made her skin look as white as snow. She looked very beautiful, and her eyes were full of happy smiles. G's mother and Lu Huifen stood beside her with eyes full of love, pulling her affectionately. An's father and mother were also behind. An's mother came out with a sick body. She wanted to see her daughter get married no matter what. Seeing her daughter so popular with her mother-in-law and sister-in-law, she breathed a sigh of relief and smiled more on her face. She said to An's father, her father, "You are right. Our Xiaolu is indeed a lucky person. You see how much her mother-in-law likes her." Father. In fact, he had no idea, he just wanted to comfort his wife. Unexpectedly, the Ji family would actually give face so much. Just when he was happy, Liu's father suddenly discovered that Grandma An had also followed. He was leaning on a cane and mumbling something. There was a look of repulsion on his face. But he saw Grandma An take a step forward and just opened her mouth, and Xiaolu and Nagasawa are such a perfect match. The man is handsome and the woman is pretty. A vague male voice suddenly sounded from nowhere. Then a slightly shriller male voice also echoed, "No, Xiaolu is still a high school student, and Ji Chang's is good looking and can make money. If you get married, it will last a long time. Happiness and contentment. Both of them are good people with good temperament, and they will definitely live a good life in the future." Ji Chang's, who was being harassed by several peers, had an embarrassed look on his face and raised his voice. "Don't be like this, everyone. Didn't I just give out some wedding candies? There is no need to praise us like this." Everyone who hadn't thought of praising them at first said, "Yes, they accepted the wedding candies. Why can't you praise someone when you take something from someone else?" As a result, all kinds of blessings and compliments almost overflowed the whole room. Grandma An opened her mouth several times and was drowned in blessings. She clutched her heart, her eyes darkening for a while. "No, I'm angry." Zhang Lao-san, who mingled in the crowd and said a few more words, found that he was completely useless, so he got out of the crowd. He also glanced at Grandma An, who was livid, so angry, with strange eyes. Does he know that Grandma An has always been bad to Anzialu? "It's a big day, if you don't feel well, please don't come out. I remember that my brother Zhang Ziyi didn't invite you." Grandma An, who cares? She went home with a cane and a sigh of relief. "I'm so angry, I'm going to die." Seeing her leaving, Zhang Lao-san walked up to Ji Chang's amidst all the boasting, his face full of flattery. "Brother Nagasawa, look at what I'm doing." "Good, very good." Ji Chang smiled and praised him, "Keep up the good work, you can do it." It happened that Anzialu was brought over by Ji's mother with a red face. He looked proud and said to his wife, "Xiaolu, you see, everyone in the village knows our kindness and character, and everyone praises us so sincerely. The big leader said that the masses have sharp eyes, and I think the people in our village have particularly sharp eyes." With that said, Ji Chang's looked at Zhang Lao-san aside and introduced him to Anzialu. "Do you remember him, right? He came to work with me because he admired my character, right Lao-san?" Zhang Lao-san, He looked at Anzialu's clear eyes of pure curiosity and felt a little embarrassed to lie. Ji Chang's turned to him and smiled at him, "By the way, third brother, you can advance your salary in advance, but I have to approve it." Zhang Lao-san, "Yes, yes. Sister-in-law, brother Nagasawa is right, I just admire his character." He gave a thumbs up, "Brother Nagasawa's character. That's this, everyone remember to bookmark the URL or remember the URL, the URL is free and fastest update, no anti-theft, no anti-theft. Report error. Ask for books to find books. Chat with book friends. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhonmao. Chapter 17. Ji Chang's married life was exactly as he had imagined. Ji's mother worked hard to be a good mother-in-law to prove that she was not the kind of person who treated her daughter-in-law harshly. Lu Huifen also chatted with Anxilu enthusiastically. Of course, because of Anxilu's mute problem, Lu Huifen usually spoke, and she listened quietly, shaking her head and nodding from time to time. Ji Chang's took Anxilu to play everywhere and eat and drink together every day. In the afternoon, he took Zhang Laosan and gave him chicken soup for the soul. Zhang Laosan has been to school, but only after elementary school. He has almost forgotten the characters he learned before. Now he can only continue to learn to read and write under the command of Ji Chang's. Take notes. Ji Chang's, remember, we go to the magic city just to make money. If you want to make other people's money, of course you have to make them smile. So when the time comes, show off your ability to flatter customers and have a good attitude. Point. Zhang Laosan nodded quickly and took notes carefully using his ugly words. Ji Chang's continued, also, we are going to get the goods, so we should have a better attitude towards other suppliers. After all, we have to get them next time. If we want to make money, we have to be grandsons, you know. Zhang Laosan imagined himself being a grandson, and his expression was a little unbearable. Brother Nagasawa, do you have to be a grandson to make money? Ji Chang's touched his chin, not necessarily, some people don't need it, like me. Zhang Laosan's eyes lit up and he asked quickly, then you teach me, and I won't use it anymore. You're quite smart. Ji Chang's patted him on the shoulder and smiled mischievously, okay, I'll teach you. Zhang Laosan quickly acted like he was all ears. Then I heard Ji Chang's say, the reason why I don't have to be a grandson. It's because you take care of it for me. Zhang Laosan. While the two were talking, Ji's mother opened the curtain and came out. Seeing Zhang Laosan's face twisted and uncomfortable, she asked out of curiosity, Laosan, are you sick? No. Zhang Laosan shook his head with a grimace. Ji Chang's and his brother put their hands on his shoulders and looked at their mother with smiles. Mom, he's fine. I just told a joke. He might be holding back his laughter. Zhang Laosan, yes. He can now perfectly support others without changing his expression, output all kinds of rainbow farts, and maintain the professionalism that a player should have 24 hours a day. Brother Nagasawa. Thinking of this, Zhang Laosan carefully tugged on Ji Chang's clothes and said coyly, I feel like I've learned enough. When are we going to the magic city? He can't wait to put what he has learned to use. Have you learned enough? Ji Chang's looked him up and down and shook his head, I think you are still not even half as good as me. Zhang Laosan. Impossible. He is extremely cheeky now. When I went out this morning, I could brag to my niece and nephew that he would take them to the magic city when he made a lot of money. Ji's mother was anxious when she heard that they were going to the magic city. Before getting married, Ji Chang's mentioned to the Ji family that he wanted to take Anxilu to see a doctor, but it had been 3 days since the wedding and there was still no movement. Nagaze, didn't you say you would take Xilu to see a doctor? Why don't you go? Ji Chang's was letting Zhang Laosan practice various sounds in front of him. When he heard his mother's words, he raised his head with an innocent face. Don't I think that I just got married and want Xilu to stay with me at home to honor you for a while before going? Otherwise, it would be bad to take my wife to see a doctor just after getting married. When he said this, his tone was deliberately nonchalant. When Ji Mu heard this, she became anxious. You kid, what are you doing with all this nonsense? It's not like your father and I are too old to lie in bed and can't move. We still need you to take care of us. Of course, Xilu is more important. It's not that Ji's mother thought it was impossible to treat this disease without medical treatment. Who told Ji Changs to tell her before that she would bother Liu's nephew's nephew for medical treatment? I owed someone a favor in the first place, but now I've agreed to it and yet I'm putting it off, it's too much to justify. Ji's mother was angry that her eldest son lived in the Lu family, and even the in-laws who were angry with the Lu family didn't want to have contact with him. But things are different now. Lu Huifen was so filial to her mother-in-law, and she was extremely kind to Xiaolu, her sister-in-law. If she wasn't trying to please her mother-in-law, how could she be so affectionate to her sister-in-law? Ji's mother was of course happy to be flattered. I don't even have that much opinion on the Lu family anymore. What's more, every time Lu Huifen and Ji Changguan came back, they brought plenty of gifts, which were easy to wear and affordable, and it was also convenient for her to brag to others. Mother Liu's face was favored, so she naturally reciprocated the favor. Now at least every time the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law get along, they look as affectionate as mother and daughter. Naturally, she didn't know that the reason Lu Huifen was so enthusiastic was because Ji Changguang always carried gifts every time he went to the city. She actually reciprocates the favor. Ji Mu doesn't know. She only knew that her daughter-in-law was filial, and her in-laws also gave her youngest son face. Knowing that her youngest daughter-in-law needed medical treatment, she specifically asked her relatives to take care of him. Where can I find such a good in-law? And Xiaolu is indeed a good girl, quiet, well-behaved, and filial. According to Nagasawa, Xiaolu has always secretly admired her as her mother-in-law. Such a wonderful daughter-in-law. Of course I have to treat her. After Ji Mu finished speaking, she walked back to the room where she had hidden her things. As she walked, she said, "I'll get you some things. You take some to your sister-in-law's house, and the rest will be given to your sister-in-law's relative. We are entrusted to others. You have done a good job in this attitude this time. I will definitely give it to you next time. He can still help, but he is still a doctor. If we move around more, there will definitely be benefits in the future, you know." Ji Changs looked impressed, and came up with a series of compliments. "Mom, you know so much. Mom, I will listen to you. I will definitely do enough etiquette. It will be easier to find someone next time if something happens. Hey, my good son, you are still good." Mother Ji's face suddenly showed a kind smile, and she tried her best to teach her all her skills. "You have to do things like this when you go to the Magic City, do you know? We have to ask for help from others, so let's have a nicer attitude. Even if you don't sound good and angry, don't offend people. Otherwise, if you want to ask for help next time, well, if we offend him, who should we go to?" Ji Changs nodded and applauded in cooperation, with a look of admiration. "Mom, what you said is so good, why didn't I think of it? You are so awesome, and I am worthy of you." Ji's mother was so proud of the praise. "Zhang Lao-san. Isn't this what Brother Nagasawa taught him just now? Really? He still hasn't reached the level of Brother Nagasawa." Ji's mother, "Dad, look for the key quickly. Where did I put it?" Father Ji was still sitting under the doorway, smoking a cigarette. "On the stove." "Mother Ji, what kind of gift do you think we should give? There seems to be nothing good at home." Father Ji said, "Send money." "Tacky." Ji's mother glanced at him and cursed, "Smoking, smoking, smoking all day long, why did Nagasawa tell you not to smoke? People who smoke have dark hearts." Ji Changs quickly raised his hand, "Mom, I'm talking about the lungs. It's the same." Mother Ji didn't listen at all. Heart and lung, aren't they all the same?" She said, "Just smoke it. If you smoke it, you will kick your legs early. Then I will enjoy the blessing of a long life. Then I will find an old man to live with you. You can just watch me from below enjoying the hot food and drinking spicy food. I won't even give you a piece of paper money to burn." Ji's father calmly raised the tobacco bag in his hand and showed it to Ji's mother. Empty. Ji's mother-in-law, who was training hard. Ji Chang's chuckled, "Mom, I found a photo of a smoker with black lungs and showed it to my dad. He said he quit smoking, but he was used to smoking and the cigarette bag didn't click every day. So he took 2 puffs of the empty one. Enjoyable. Ji Mu, do you think your father quit because he was afraid of death? He was afraid that I would beat him." Father Ji said, "You, mother, are right." Ji's mother was then satisfied, "You know the truth." She snorted coldly and went to get the key. Zhang Lao-san watched the daily life of the Ji family. He can't compare to brother Nagasawa. Unexpectedly, even Nagasawa's parents can't compare. Then when can he go to the Magic City? It's pretty quick to get to the Magic City. As expected, Enzilu's illness was not treated well by the hospital here. The young doctor who came to their hospital to see a doctor because it was rare that he had a relative willing to take care of him was very embarrassed. Our hospital probably can't treat her well. I heard the teacher say before about her case that in order to be cured, you need to find a professional doctor who specializes in this area. You still have to go to a big provincial city to see her. I'm really sorry. It's okay, as long as you can see well. Ji Chang's was not disappointed at all. He even looked at Enzilu next to him with a surprised smile. "Zilu, do you hear me? Your illness can be cured. When it is cured, you can continue to go to school." Enzilu really didn't expect that her muteness could be cured. When Ji Chang's wanted to take her to see her, she hesitated, thinking that the doctor said it couldn't be cured and that coming to the hospital was a waste of money. But she couldn't stand it. Ji's mother kept trying to persuade her not to give up, and Ji Chang's also kept comforting and encouraging her. "When I came to the hospital, it would be a lie to say that I didn't have hope in my heart. But when the doctor really said that there was hope for a cure, the surprise at that moment simply filled her heart." Enzilu didn't know how she got back. Fortunately, although she hadn't come to her senses yet, Ji Chang's had been protecting her along the way, preventing her from falling or tripping. When she returned, Ji Chang's took her directly to her parents' home. Mother Lu can now go to the ground and is walking slowly around the yard. Her son-in-law said that people who have been lying in bed for a long time have no strength, so they should move around more to recover faster. While walking around, I saw Enzilu and Ji Chang's coming together. When she walked to the door, Enzilu was still taking small steps, but her steps were getting faster and faster, and finally she almost ran to her mother and hugged her with a smile on her face but tears. It landed on Mother Liu's shoulder. "Zilu, what's going on?" Mother Lu subconsciously hugged her daughter to comfort her. While comforting her, she looked at Ji Chang's who was also coming over. "Chang's, what's wrong with Zilu?" She didn't think that her daughter was bullied by Ji Chang's. After all, Liu's mother particularly believed in Ji Chang's. She feels that her son-in-law is really the best son-in-law in the world. For his father-in-law and mother-in-law, since getting married, Ji Chang's has taken over the task of buying medicine. He goes there in person every time without asking for their money, and sometimes he even buys it. Meat is added to their family's meals. He was also extremely kind to his wife Zilu. Since getting married, she has taken Zilu to town every day to play, buy her new clothes, and take her everywhere to eat and drink. Sometimes Mother Lu can hear Father Lu telling her that he happened to meet the two of them when he went out. The young couple were picking chrysanthemums hand in hand, saying they wanted to put them in bottles to keep. He complained that the two of them had nothing to do, but there were wrinkles on their faces with a happy smile. After all, if he didn't have a good relationship, he definitely wouldn't be able to do this. Since getting married, Zilu has had more smiles on her face. In the past, she had a calm temperament and was very calm in everything she did. Even when she smiled, it was only a shallow smile. After she became mute, she smiled less. But when she was with Ji Chang's, the smiles on her face were so many and so bright. Seeing this, Mother Lu couldn't be happy. Even when Ji Chang's goes to town, he always thinks about bringing food to Xiaolu. This shows how kind he is to her daughter. How could he bully her? With a smile on his face, Ji Chang said happily, "Mom, Xiaolu is happy. We went to the doctor just now and they said her disease can be cured." He left out the word possible. Mother Lu was stunned for a moment, then her face was full of disbelief and ecstasy. "Really? That's great. Oh my good daughter, you've managed to survive. Good boy, stop crying. Let's take good care of the disease. Once cured, we will still be the same as before." Ah! And Xiaolu got up from her arms, her eyes red from crying, and nodded with a smile. She thought that even if the disease could not be cured, she would be happy with Nagasawa here. Ji Chang's took Xiaolu and Zhang Lao-san to the Magic City. After placing Xiaolu in place, he took Zhang Lao-san to work with a serious look on his face. "Third brother, you have been training your troops for 1,000 days and using your troops for a while. It's finally your time to shine. Are you ready?" Zhang Lao-san nodded seriously and wished he could swear to the sky. "Brother Nagasawa, I'm ready. No matter how difficult the hardships I encounter, I can do it." "Good." Ji Chang's patted his shoulder encouragingly, "You can do it." So, in front of a store in Shanghai, Ji Chang's played gongs and drums, and after attracting enough attention, he displayed the rows of goods behind to the passers-by. The new store has opened, and there are 3 discounts. The first one is buy one and get one free for similar items. The second one is to get 3 yuan off when you spend more than 20 yuan, 10 yuan off when you spend more than 50 yuan, and 22 yuan when you spend more than 100 yuan. Spend more. There are more discounts. The third type will be randomly drawn if you spend up to 5 yuan. The prize can be up to 100 coupons. You can use it if you spend 150 yuan. Let's take a look. Passers-by were immediately attracted by what sounded like a huge discount. At this time, the Magic City had just opened up free business, and there weren't that many routines. Ji Chang's appearance was very new. But when I looked at the price, I was a little hesitant. It seems very expensive. Yes, the price is much higher than other stores. What is this material made of? Zhang Lao-san mingled in the crowd. Sometimes her voice was as shrill as that of a middle-aged woman, and she said ecstatically, "Isn't this Yuchen's material? I heard it's very expensive, but why is it so cheap and such a beautiful piece of clothing only costs more than 30 yuan? Sometimes his voice is loud and thick like that of an elderly man. The quality of this watch seems to be good, and you can buy one and get one free. Is it such a good deal?" Sometimes he said in a steady tone, "Sister, look at this dress, it's buy one get one free, it's cheap, the material is good, why don't I buy it for you and my second sister, so you can wear it out during the Chinese New Year, and you can look good." After finishing speaking, he took another piece of clothing and went to the front. "Boss, check out. Ji Chang's, hey, your clothes cost exactly 5 yuan. Do you want to draw a lottery? You can get up to 100 yuan in coupons." Zhang Lao-san tried his best to show hesitation and tangle on his face, pretending that he wanted to take advantage of it, and reluctantly put back the buy one get one free clothes. "Okay, let's try the lottery." Ji Chang's brought the box to him, "Put your hand in and take out a note." For a moment, everyone in the store was watching this scene. In full view of everyone, Zhang Lao-san reached in and handed the note to Ji Chang's. "I can't read, what's written on it?" Ji Chang's looked shocked. "First prize. Congratulations. The coupon of 100 yuan can be used when you spend over 150 yuan. Of course, you can also choose to convert it into 50 yuan in cash. It's all fine. I am hit. Zhang Lao-san's face was full of ecstasy and he said quickly, I want 50 yuan. Ji Chang's gave him 50 yuan. For a moment, everyone in the store looked at Zhang Lao-san with envy, jealousy, and hatred. By the time Zhang Lao-san walked out of the store, everyone was already buying like crazy with enthusiastic and excited expressions. He exhaled and rubbed his face. A few people happened to be passing by together. Seeing how popular the store was, they asked curiously, what is sold here? Why are there so many people? Zhang Lao-san immediately put a look of joy on his face skillfully, waved the 50 yuan and said, it's a new store. If you buy something for 5 yuan, you can draw a lottery. Look, I just drew the money out, 50 yuan. Prices at this time were not high. 30 yuan a month for ordinary people was considered too much. A lottery could actually earn 50 yuan. These people were immediately intrigued and walked in one after another. When Ji Chang's purchased goods, he always calculated the prices. At the end of the day, everything was sold for 77, 88, or 88. As he was counting the money, Zhang Lao-san came in and said in a loud voice, Brother Nagasawa, why do I feel that you are not working in a factory, but are speculating? Ji Chang's kept counting the money without even raising his eyes, it's nothing more than speculation. This is responding to the country's call and making contributions to the country. Zhang Lao-san, but isn't this your personal business? It's just speculation. Ji Chang's, you don't have to pay me back the 50 yuan I gave you during the day. Zhang Lao-san. Ji Chang's, come on, third child, tell me, what are we doing now? Zhang Lao-san raised his chest and raised his head with a loud voice. Answer the call of the country. Contribute to the country. Zhang Lao-san has always felt that he is thin-skinned and a straight person. Later, he was called Mr. Zhang. When he was making money even though he was lying down for a month, when someone teased him for being thick-skinned, he would wave his hands and say seriously that he was not thick-skinned. Yes, compared to Brother Nagasawa, no, Dongji, his skin is so thin that it can be broken with just a poke. Sometimes when Zhang Lao-san, who has become a winner in life, looks back on the past, he will also remember that at the beginning, he was still a rookie and was ordered around by Director Ji. At that time, he was very satisfied with 50 yuan a day. He even thought that it would be great if he could have 50 yuan a day in this life. Who would have thought that Director Ji would lead him step by step from a small vendor, a small store, a small boss, and a small company to the position of the richest man? Of course, he is the richest man, Mr. Ji. And he is the most loyal subordinate under Director Ji. After the group grew bigger, no one wanted to recruit him, but he refused. Not only because he was grateful to Ji Chang's, but also because Zhang Lao-san, who followed Ji Chang step by step, knew clearly that no one could outplay him. On this day, someone came to interview him. To be precise, they came to interview Ji Chang's. But because he was currently working, traveling, abroad, he could only try to learn more about Zhang Lao-san, the richest man who was self-made and legendary throughout his life. The reporter asked, "Excuse me, Mr. Zhang. I heard that you only had a primary school degree at the beginning. Later, you studied on your own and passed the exam step by step. Until now, you have a doctorate. What keeps you studying unremittingly?" Zhang Lao-san showed a smile of memories. "I was encouraged by Director Ji. At first, my sister-in-law, namely Director Ji's wife Anzialu and Dong, was hesitant to return to school after recovering from illness. It was Director Ji who strongly supported me and said that knowledge is the most useful. He also encouraged me to go to a nearby night school. By the way, to protect Anzialu, he didn't want to go at that time, and then he almost didn't see the sun the next day." The reporter laughed. "I see, I heard that you are very serious when studying." Zhang Lao-san, "Yes, I was studying very hard at that time. Can it be done without learning?" If brother Nagasawa can't learn it well, he plans to send him to Africa. Of course, he will have to risk his life to learn it. Reporter, I really admire you. By the way, speaking of Director G, I heard that he trusts you very much, right? Zhang Lao-san, yes, Director G trusts me. After all, I have accompanied him step by step. I can guarantee that among his employees, I am the most loyal one. Watch step by step how he deceives those who want to deceive him, and how he strategizes. He would only betray Ji Chang's if he was crazy. The reporter also asked about Ji Chang's family situation, who doesn't like to appear in public very much. Zhang Lao-san, DRG has a very happy family. His sister-in-law works in an educational institution. She is committed to helping poor children and has built many primary schools. They have 3 children in total. They are all well behaved and sensible. Now Ji Dong doesn't appear in front of people very much, either. Because he feels that he is getting older and is ready to retire and travel around the world with his sister-in-law. Retirement at 45 is, well, too old. After the reporter finished interviewing him, he went to Ji Chang's hometown, which is the small mountain village. Regardless of whether they are old or young, the villagers' answers are surprisingly consistent. He is a good person. He has been sensible since he was a child. He has known how to help his mother with work since he was a child. He is very diligent. Yes, he is kind-hearted, and he is very grateful. There is a lonely old man in our village. Nagasawa calls him Uncle Chi. In the past, he always gave him mountain goods. But later, Nagasawa took him to enjoy the blessing, saying that he wanted to give him he provides for his old age, and this kid knows how to be grateful. Older people still remember some of the bastard things Ji Chang's did in the past, but they are not stupid. After Chang's became prosperous in these years, he built primary schools and roads for the village, and also arranged for the village to engage in breeding and planting. He came to be responsible for the acquisition of the business. It can be said that he has absolutely done his best to the fellow villagers. At this time, he is still saying bad things about Ji Chang's. He's not crazy. He vowed, Nagaze has been a good boy since he was a child. I have told you a long time ago that he must be promising. And this child does not hold grudges. His wife is Xiaolu. Grandma Xiaolu has a strange temper. She treats Nagasawa and Xiaolu is not good either, but Nagasawa always carries his things to see her, which is filial. This is true. Even Ji Chang's mentioned that everything he used to eat was for food. He usually shows up when Grandma An is saying bad things about Xiaolu. He brings a bunch of things that Grandma An can't eat, after all, she has lost her teeth, and then eats them deliciously in front of her. Ji Chang's always suspected that Grandma An died so early because of his filial piety. He is also very kind to his wife. He loves her the most in our village. When his wife was sick, he took good care of her. Yes, his mother is also kind to his daughter-in-law. She treats her as if she were her own daughter. My mother is also very kind and a very good person. When the reporter came out of the village, he looked at the words recorded on the screen as a great person, so kind, the most righteous person in the world and good-tempered, with an expression full of yearning. Don't tell me, there really are such perfect good people in this world. There are many versions of the legend of Ji Chang's richest man. In that era of gold everywhere, everyone dug gold, but he built a golden mountain. When he and his wife Xiaolu passed away together, everyone knew how many donations, how many good deeds and how many poor children the couple had made over the years. He, Ji Chang's, is a great good man, there is no doubt about it. Ding. The mission is completed, please choose to take a vacation or continue the mission. Ji Chang's, continue the mission. Extra. Uncle Ji Chi has always been lonely. When he was young, he joined the army for no other reason than to defend their country and protect it. It's a pity that he was injured and had to come back. Marrying a daughter-in-law and giving birth to a son can be regarded as the hotbed of a wife and children. At that time, Uncle Ji felt that he was the happiest man in the world. He wanted to protect his wife and his son. If his son was willing, he would send him to join the army when he grew up and continue to protect their country. However, his son died of illness. His wife was not in good health at first, so she was sad and soon followed him. Uncle Ji doesn't want to marry again. But he still likes children. He still remembers that when he joined the army, their squad leader said that children are the hope of the country, and no one should suffer, not the baby. In addition, he was thinking about his own children, so Uncle Ji was very kind to the children in the village. He had some skills, and would go to the mountains to get mountain products, and sometimes he would also get some bird eggs. Usually he was reluctant to eat it and would share it with the young babies. When they were eating, Uncle Ji looked on with a kind face and a smile. At this time, he simply liked these children and did not expect them to repay him when they grew up. Until Nagasawa pestered him for food. Nagasawa was young, fair-skinned, and had a sweet mouth. He called him uncle every time, and when he got food from him, he was very happy to tell him, "Uncle, you are so kind. When I grow up and become successful, I will definitely be filial to my uncle and provide for you in my old age." Uncle Ji didn't take it seriously at first. But gradually, Nagasawa talked about it more and more, and as he got older, he felt comfort in his heart. He began to go up the mountain frequently, braving the cold, just to get Nagasawa the mountain products he liked to eat. He didn't think about what he wanted from Nagasawa in the future. "I just thought that when he gets old and can no longer climb the mountain, Nagasawa can come and see him and let him know that he is still remembered." Day by day, Nagasawa grew older, his body and bones began to weaken, and he stopped going up the mountain as much. Uncle Ji could clearly feel that Nagasawa seemed to be less enthusiastic about him than before. He felt a little uncomfortable, but he didn't want to believe that the child he grew up with was such a person. Uncle Ji went up the mountain again and brought down some mountain goods, which he wanted to give to Nagaze to eat. Nagasawa gave the money this time. Uncle Ji was a little worried, but also a little happy. Not for money, but for Nagasawa's respectful attitude towards him. Later, Nagasawa went to the city, to the magic city, and got a wife. I heard that he makes a lot of money and is often in Shanghai. While Uncle Ji was happy for him, he also felt a little lonely in his heart. He thought that this child might not come back very often. One day, there was a knock on the door. Uncle Ji went out, only to find the child he had grown up with standing outside the door, his smile still familiar and ruffian. "Uncle, I'm here to pick you up. I told you a long time ago that I will support you in your old age." Ji Chang's opened his eyes and found that he was holding a book in his hand. Turning her head again, a middle-aged woman was looking at him with a loving face. Seeing him looking over, she quickly handed over the spoon in her hand, her tone as gentle as talking to a child. "Come, Nagasawa, have some soup." Ji Chang's. He was absolutely certain that he was an adult now. A quick check of my memory revealed it. This time, his identity is that of a student who knows nothing but reading. Even though my grades are very good, I have to take care of my parents when I go to school, I can't do laundry or cook, and I have to be fed every time I eat. I have no life experience at all, and I don't want to have any life experience. In layman's terms, there are only two words. Giant baby. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhongmao. Chapter 18. Ji Chang's didn't express anything on his face and drank the soup handed to him by the middle-aged woman with a loving face next to him. When she saw that he had finished drinking, the middle-aged woman showed a loving smile on her face and whispered, "I'm going to wash the dishes. If you want a drink, just call me." Ji Chang's nodded and watched her go out. When he was alone in the room, he began to check his memories. The original owner was indeed a giant baby. The so-called giant baby is someone who looks like an adult on the surface, but acts like a little baby and needs to be taken care of by others for everything he does. I can't cook, I can't wash clothes, I can't even fold the quilt. The original owner is such a person. He has no mental illness and is completely physically sound. The reason why he became a giant baby is entirely because of his character. To put it nicely, it means you are confident. To put it more unpleasantly, it means you have a high self-esteem and don't want to do these chores. And the reason for developing this temperament is a problem that has been raised since childhood. This world is similar to the modern world. The original owner was born in a run-down mountain village, which is really shabby and old. He is a posthumous child. His father was a college student. In the era when his father was admitted to college, college students were still very capable. The original owner's father was working as a tutor in school and looking for opportunities to work part-time. At the same time, he could not give up his studies. Although he was too busy and had no skills, he would send money back to his wife and parents from time to time. In that small village at that time, because the family he is a college student who always sends money back. The original owner's mother and grandparents live a very good life. After his father made it through the Dragon Gate through his own efforts and was admitted to university, the poor people in the village discovered how useful reading is. For a time, the education of children in the village was put on the agenda. Who would have thought that a sudden disaster would happen, causing the original owner's father to get into a car accident on his way back to his hometown to visit his relatives and die at a young age? The family was about to cry their eyes out. It was at this time that the original owner's mother found out that she was pregnant, and the family reluctantly put away their sorrow. Because his father was so good and kind, and the original owner lost his father while he was still in his mother's womb, his grandparents and mother felt so sorry for him that they were afraid of dropping it when they held it in their hands, and they were afraid of it melting when they were held in their mouths. People in the village also praised it. This is a college student's doll. In the future, he will definitely become an excellent college student like his father. Therefore, it is not an exaggeration to say that the original owner grew up in an environment surrounded by stars. When he was young, he was white and tender. Even if he was asked to work, even if he drank water, his family would thoughtfully put it to his mouth. And coupled with the fact that some people in their family said how great his father was back then, the original owner felt that he was different from the people in the village. When he grew up a little, he firmly refused some small requests from his family. For example, I asked him to sweep the floor, but he refused to do it. He felt that sweeping the floor was a waste of his time as a top student. Even if he wanted to drink water, as a teenager he would not do it himself and had to have someone bring it to him. The family all regarded him as a fisheye. The old man loved his grandson, and his mother had a weak temperament. She was not happy to see him, and did not try to change his temperament, but went along with his wishes. As a result, the original owner became more and more pushy, and eventually it came to the point where he had to take care of everything from his family, and he used studying as an excuse to take time off. The original owner's results are indeed good. It's just that he has always looked down on the classmates around him, thinking that these classmates are mediocre and not as smart as himself. If he had to describe it, it would probably be that the way he looked at the classmates around him was the way an ancient emperor looked at an ant. As a result, his popularity will naturally not be much better. His elementary school, junior high school and high school were all-day studies. No matter spring, summer, autumn, or winter, whether it was raining or snowing or hot or not, he only had to sit in the classroom and study. At noon, the original owner's mother would naturally come to deliver food. In the evening, grandpa will take him back on his motorcycle. There is absolutely no need for him to put any effort into it. It was nothing until high school, until later, when the original owner went to college. The university he was admitted to was in the capital. Of course, it was impossible for his family to travel several hours to pick him up and take care of him like before. So he did something, he took his mother to the capital. The original owner thinks this is good. He has his mother nearby to take care of him, wash clothes and cook for him. As for the high prices in the capital, how his mother will live here is not something he is too lazy to consider. Whatever you do, just take good care of him. The original owner's mother had no education and couldn't go too far away from university. She had to bear the rent and buy good things for her son from time to time. She had no choice but to work as a cleaning lady who was paid hourly. She worked hard to make money, but the original owner molded herself into a rich second generation in school. He was harsh on his mother, but never showed mercy on himself. After arriving in the capital and witnessing the prosperity of the capital, the original owner gradually stopped caring about studying. He knew clearly that he could only be regarded as a bumpkin. Although there were many bumpkins like him in the school, how could he, who was used to despising all living beings, can tolerate being looked down upon by others? Although no one despises him at all. So, he began to tell his mother in an angry and complaining tone that he was being compared with others in school. The original owner's mother was afraid that her son would be wronged because of his poor clothes, so she worked hard to keep up with all kinds of brand name clothes and watches. He has the latest mobile phone and good looks, and he is actually known as the male god in school. In order to maintain the high expenses of the original owner, his mother had to greatly increase her working hours, 24 hours a day, and could only sleep 4 or 5 hours a day. In addition to taking care of her son, she had to work at other times. The original owner's grandparents also often received calls from their grandson asking for money, saying that studying in the capital was expensive. The two old people believed it, and not only did work in the fields, but also took on jobs in the town from time to make money. Under the heavy workload of 3 relatives at home, the original owner was still not satisfied. He knew very well that none of his family members had any earning power, so they reluctantly bought clothes and mobile phones for him. However, other rich second-generation classmates drove luxury cars, but he could never even dream of buying a luxury car. So, he set his sights on a rich second-generation girl in school. This girl actually looks good, but her temperament is not at all in line with the gentleness that the original owner requires of girls. On the contrary, the girl has a free and easy personality, short hair, a strong sense of justice, and loves to fight against injustice. It is said that she actually wanted to apply for the police academy, but her family did not agree, so she got into the school of her original owner. The original owner despised the girl very much. In his eyes, girls should be gentle and considerate. It is best not to work after getting married. They should be honest and at home, supporting their husbands and raising children. At the same time, they cannot ask him for money. Of course, the family should not be poor. It is best to have a house, a car, and a card as a dowry. If he cheats on you, it's just a normal behavior for a man. You can't cry or make trouble, and you have to accept his cheating behavior. It can be said that fortunately the original owner also knew that his request was shameless and did not say it out loud. Otherwise, he would have been beaten to death by the girl before he could catch anyone. Yes, the original owner caught the girl. Of course it's not for the girl's sense of justice, but for her face and her money. This rich second-generation girl has been pampered since she was a child. She has a carefree temper and is a bit naive and easy to cheat. The original owner is good-looking and is also known as a male god in Taiba forums. If such a character offers an olive branch of love, of course he has to accept it. As a result, he fell into a big trap like the original owner. Give money for gifts, buy clothes, and treat guests. But the original owner didn't like her very much, he just went there for the money. But in order to prevent this big fool from breaking up, he coaxed the person into having the last step of cordial communication. Then he felt that he had trapped the person, and began to think about cheating. According to the original owner's brain circuit, the other person's first time was given to him. It doesn't matter what he does at this time. Otherwise, if he is annoyed and wants to break up with her, his girlfriend will definitely be too scared to mention it again. As a result, he just fell in love with a green tea who was not getting along with his girlfriend. For Zhuang Bi, he leaned next to his roommate's luxury car and pretended that it was his own car. Others commented under the picture that he was rich. In the second generation, I also pretended not to see the default. His roommate was unhappy with him, so he immediately exposed it. The school forum immediately exploded. The result is just like digging potatoes, one big bunch at a time. First, they found out that the original owner was not a second-generation rich man, and then they found out that he was actually with that green tea guy that day and that he already had a girlfriend. Then he found out that many of the brand-name clothes he wore were given to him by his girlfriend. Finally, shocking information was unearthed. His mother turned out to be a nanny. The reason his mother came to the capital was actually to take care of her son. By the way, through other people's revelations, it was discovered that the original owner was actually a giant baby. Many people in high school know about his deeds. It's 19,012, and there are still people who don't even know how to wash clothes. When I was in high school, I never washed the dishes after eating. I had to take them home and let my family wash them. The most amazing thing is that he can't even wash clothes. I can't even fold the quilt. For a time, the forum was full of booze. The original owner, a male god, suddenly turned into the most annoying cheating man with a giant baby. The former label of cold male god has become Zhuang Bi, dead fish-faced man. The original owner himself is a man with a strong self-esteem, which can also be said to be very conceited. The most unbearable thing is that others despise him. It happened that his girlfriend came to question him that day. The girl's angry and dissatisfied voice made him turn his face. The two had a big fight in the unoccupied study room. The original owner was angry at the time and couldn't argue with the other party, so he got angry and started to fight. It happened that his mother was so worried when she saw that her son hadn't come back for dinner for so long that she came to school to look for him. However, she happened to see the scene and quickly went to start a fight. Even if the original owner didn't work, he was still a man. The person he beat was a petite girl, and the person who stopped him was a middle-aged woman who was weak due to long-term heavy workload. He was not stopped, but found an outlet in the process of beating people. The last chair passes. Smashed my girlfriend to death. Someone was dead and the original owner panicked. He quickly begged his mother to convict him. The original owner's mother was originally a weak-tempered person, but now that she saw her son pleading and saying that he would be ruined for the rest of his life by going to prison, she finally gritted her teeth and agreed. The original owner's mother voluntarily surrendered, and the original owner was expelled from school. This is not the result the original owner wanted. He didn't believe the school said that he was expelled because he was involved in the murder case and the matter made such a big fuss. Instead, he thought wholeheartedly that his girlfriend's family was taking revenge on him. Finally, he found an opportunity. He first picked up his grandparents, and then took his grandfather out shopping under the pretext of taking him out. He took the opportunity to stab his girlfriend's father to death and seriously injured his girlfriend's mother. Thinking that they were dead, he repeated his old tricks and asked his grandfather to take the blame for him. In the end, who would have thought that his girlfriend's mother was still alive and would kill him in response? Unable to let his relatives take the blame for him, the original owner had no choice but to become a fugitive. In the end, seeing no escape, he became determined to take revenge on society. Homemade bombs detonated in downtown areas. Not only did he die, but he also took away a dozen innocent lives. Ji Changs did the math. The original owner killed almost 20 people one after another. And he didn't harm people indirectly, but directly. This also includes the case of domestic violence against the grandmother after being kicked out of school. As for why he doesn't domestically abuse his grandfather, it's naturally because he only dares to bully women. His grandfather came to the capital and found a job as a janitor, and his grandmother took care of him at home. The original owner knew that his grandmother felt sorry for him and would not tell his grandfather about the domestic violence, so he acted unscrupulously. I'm afraid that before he died, the old man felt that his grandson was just too stressed and couldn't control his emotions. Ji Chang's couldn't help but cursed, "Scum." At this point in time, it has been revealed that the original owner is not a rich second generation, but a giant baby who can't do anything. There is a lot of ridicule on the forum. And his girlfriend Chi Yishu is going to find him in the study room tonight and question him about the photo on the internet of him and Green Tea standing together. Yes, as a girlfriend, her focus is only here. Ding. The memory has been transferred. Mission: please change the ending of everyone who was killed, and the characters cannot be destroyed. Please choose whether to stay. Ji Chang's, stay. The system is offline. After it left, Ji Chang stood up and touched his face. He walked to the mirror hanging on the wall and looked at the person inside. He has fair skin, and his facial features look insignificant individually, but they look quite good together. In addition, he is tall, and he is very intimidating when he stands here. No wonder he is called a male god. The original owner's image in school has always been cold-tempered, commonly known as iceberg. Of course, he was named by some girls who loved his good looks in the past. To his roommates and some male classmates, the original owner clearly looked down upon him. That's right, the original owner just looked down on people. He has always felt that I am the smartest person in the world. It's all rubbish. Trash is richer than me. Envy. Definitely jealous. When he arrived in the capital and found some girls eating his style and thinking it was cool, he didn't want to change it anymore. Therefore, he currently has two characters, Iceberg and Giant Baby. Not difficult, not difficult. When Ji Chang's went out, his mother Qin Xinlian had just finished washing the dishes and was mopping the floor. When she saw her son coming out, she quickly asked, "Nagaze, do you want something? Why didn't you call me?" "It's okay, I'm going to school. I won't come back tonight." Ji Chang's looked as familiar to her, with an expressionless face and concise words. The expression on Qin Xinlian's face suddenly became a little embarrassed. Sometimes, she would feel that her son disliked her and was impatient with her. Otherwise, why would he become less and less interested in talking to her? Even if he did speak, it would only be in short sentences. It seems that he doesn't want to say one more word. Although Nagasawa never said he disliked her, Qin Xinlian always felt in her heart that her son looked down on her as a mother. Every time she had this thought, she would quickly forget it. How could be? Nagasawa is her son, how could he look down on her? Seeing that the young man was about to go out with a cold face, Qin Xinlian quickly opened the door for him, gave him the bag he had put aside, and gently warned. "The cups are full, tonight's change of clothes is also put away, and the meal card and money are on the side." After hesitating for a moment, Qin Xinlian added, "Nagaze, why don't you take a shower at home? It's convenient." In fact, convenience is nothing. She is mainly worried about whether her son will look down on his classmates if he brings his clothes directly back for her to wash every time he takes a shower at school. Today, Nagasawa saw the post on his mobile phone and became very angry. Qin Xinlian is not very good at playing with mobile phones, but she has seen some and knows what people on the internet say about her son. She naturally feels distressed and does not want Nagasawa to be talked about anymore. Need not. Ji Chang shook his head, "If I go to school earlier, I can read earlier." In fact, the original owner refused to wash it at home because the bathroom at home was too cold. He feels cold. Qin Xinlian suddenly realized. It turned out that Nagasawa was reading to save time. As expected, he loved learning just like his father. Okay, go ahead and call me if anything happens. Ji Chang's nodded again, walked to the door, and suddenly turned to look at Qin Xinlian's right little finger. How did you do it? This? It's nothing serious. Qin Xinlian looked down at the scar on her little finger and smiled. I was cut by glass when I was at work. The young man's eyebrows wrinkled slightly, and his already cold face looked even colder. He pursed his lips slightly, as if he wanted to say something. After a pause for a few seconds, he spoke in a clear and cold voice, soon. Qin Xinlian, what? Ji Chang's, I have been studying hard during this period, and I will graduate soon. As he said this, he glanced at the wound on Qin Xinlian's finger, with a hint of assurance in his tone. With professional knowledge, I can make money after graduation. Qin Xinlian automatically completed the rest of her son's words. I made money after graduation, so you don't have to endure such hardship. After seeing his son say this, his expression seemed slightly uncomfortable, and he said stiffly, I'm not in a hurry to spend money, you don't have to work so hard. After saying that, the young man looked uncomfortable as he opened the door and strode out, as if someone was chasing him behind him. Qin Xinlian was cared for, and at the same time her heart felt warm and she wanted to laugh. Nagasawa, are you shy? Also, most boys are reluctant to say disgusting words, and would be embarrassed if they did. She recalled her son's words in her mind again. I thought about how he had been reading and studying almost all the time since he was a child, as if he was being chased by someone. He was unable to do anything else and could only study in silence. Could it be? Is it just to graduate early, make money, share the housework at home, and let her have a good rest? Yes, that must be the case. Qin Xinlian's nose felt sore. How sensible her son is. But before, she secretly felt that her son disliked her. He was obviously too busy and tired from studying every day these days. Thinking of the little concern hidden on her son's face before, Qin Xinlian wanted to cry again, but felt comfort in her heart. How could her Nagasawa be so good? She actually guessed that Nagasawa ignored her on purpose. It's really inappropriate. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhongmao. Chapter 19. Ji Chang's didn't go anywhere else when he went to school, he went directly to the study room. There was basically no one at this spot, and the original owner relied on the lack of anyone to be so unscrupulous in his rebellion. He took out a book from his school bag and placed it on the table. He also took out a cup, peeled walnuts, washed apples, and a banana, and carefully placed them on the table. These were all prepared by Qin Xinlian for him. Qin Xinlian had never studied much, but she had heard her husband say a lot when she was young and knew what was nutritious. She felt that her son was having a hard time studying, so she tried every means to supplement his nutrition. Every time the original owner saw fruit stuffed in his school bag, he would throw it into the trash can in disgust. He felt that eating these would lose face. After all, they are quite ordinary fruits. But Ji Chang's doesn't think so. Look at the juicy apples, look at the yellow-orange bananas, and the peeled walnuts. Although he really wanted to eat, he held back and did not eat. Instead, after sorting them according to size, he immersed himself in reading. Beep. The cell phone on the table rang. Ji Chang's picked it up and saw that it was indeed his girlfriend Chi Yishu. Chi Yishu, where are you? Although Chi Yishu has a carefree temper and likes a handsome image, he still likes to act coquettishly after falling in love. Now his tone is obviously angry. Ji Chang's directly told her that he was in the east study room. Sure enough, after a while, A petite, short-haired, pretty girl opened the door and came in aggressively. Seeing that her boyfriend was the only one in the classroom, she no longer had to hide the anger on her face and shouted angrily. Ji Chang's. The young man who was sitting by the window and reading quietly raised his eyes slightly and looked over. Seeing the angry look on his girlfriend's face, there was some confusion in his eyes. Seeing that he still behaved like this, Chi Yishu became even more angry. She strode forward angrily, "No. Run forward." He reached Ji Chang's side in one breath, took out his mobile phone and threw it on the table. "Tell me. What's going on between you and this Wang Sixuan? If you don't explain it to me today, we won't be finished." Ji Chang's face was still expressionless, but there was some confusion in his eyes. He reached out and picked up the phone, looked at it, and frowned slightly. If this really didn't happen, his first reaction would definitely be to explain. Now he keeps silent and says that he doesn't feel guilty. When Chi Yishu saw this, he was so angry that he wanted to beat him up. But because he felt that he couldn't beat him, he could only fold his arms angrily, stand there and look down at the young man sitting there. "You have nothing to say, you scumbag." She never expected it. Chi Yishu was actually cuckolded. Still such a big one. It's almost as if the green grassland is above your head. Seeing the young man frowning and staring at the phone with a thoughtful look on his face, he slowly turned his head to look at her. His lips had just opened as if he wanted to speak. Chi Yishu immediately interrupted him. "Stop talking, you scumbag, I won't believe you even if you say anything. You have never smiled like that at me." Ba. Ba ba ba. Ji Chang's, the phone screen is black. Chi Yishu, who was passionately scolding the scumbag. Her aura disappeared, her expression froze, and she subconsciously looked over. Sure enough, she saw that the screen of the mobile phone held between Ji Chang's slender fingers was black. Chi Yishu. I was so angry when I saw the photo that I forgot to unlock it before giving it to my boyfriend. She quickly grabbed the phone in embarrassment. After unlocking it, she made sure that the photo was out. Then she threw it in front of Ji Chang's, and her momentum returned. Bah! Scumbag! Ji Chang's picked up his phone and looked at a photo on it. The content was that he was standing next to a red slutty car, and standing opposite was a girl with long and bright hair. The girl's face was full of smiles, and he also raised the corners of his mouth slightly, looking very happy. From this side angle, it almost looks like they are hugging each other. It's difficult. Ji Chang's recalled it. Fortunately, although the original owner wanted to flirt with the girl, he didn't beep too much. I just happened to see a beautiful girl in front of me fall down, so I wanted to show off, helped her up, and then said that I would take her to the hospital in the convertible. The original owner also wanted his reputation very much. He knew that the car belonged to his roommate, and he also knew where the roommate usually kept the keys. What he said was that he would use the car to take the girl to the hospital, but what he didn't say was that the car belonged to him. At that time, even if someone says something, he can say that he didn't mean it. But he didn't expect that once things got serious, they would be out of control. Even if he wanted to explain, no one would listen. But this incident is not a coincidence, otherwise it would be too coincidental. First there was this photo, which was taken in an ambiguous manner, and then someone posted the photo and the person on the internet, praising the beautiful scenes of rich second-generation people and beauties. The original owner was so overwhelmed by the praise that he did not clarify it in person. Then after the roommate angrily clarified, someone suddenly started picking on him, and more things happened next. He didn't think anyone was deliberately setting up a trap to deal with the original owner. It seems like someone deliberately made such a fuss to save Chi Yishu's face. And that person is naturally Wang Sixuan. The original owner originally wanted to trick others. As a result, I was tricked by others. After recalling it and confirming that the original owner and Wang Xixuan had only had an ambiguous conversation, he looked at Qi Yishu standing aside. The tone was calm. This is a borrowed position. Qi Yishu passed by the scene just now, and his aura was gone. If Ji Chang's gave her a serious explanation, or argued with her, she could still reignite the war, but the problem now was. After Ji Chang said this, as if the matter had been resolved, he gently put the phone in Qi Yi's book pocket, and then continued to read with his eyes down. Qi Yishu. She was absolutely furious. But Ji Chang's didn't argue with her. If she yelled angrily, it would look like she was being unreasonable. Ji Chang's, you said you were borrowing the seat, but you are borrowing the seat? Who knows if you lied to me? You have never smiled at me like that. Who believes that you and her have nothing to do with each other? Moreover, this photo has been spread all over the internet before. Why don't you come out and clarify? The more Qi Yishu thought about it, the angrier he became, and then he thought about how she loved the person in front of her, tried every means to seduce him, and acted coquettishly with him, but in the end, he never smiled at her. She thought he was cold-tempered and didn't do it on purpose. After all, Ji Chang's was like this to others. Result. He actually smiled at Wang Xixuan. Smile, laugh, laugh. Seeing that the boyfriend in front of him turned to look at him helplessly, as if she was the one who disturbed him unreasonably, Qi Yishu became even more angry. Don't pretend like nothing happened, I must make it clear today. The young man's expressionless and handsome face showed a bit of helplessness. He gently put down the book in his hand, and naturally took out his mobile phone from Qi Yishu's pocket. Untie. Qi Yishu didn't know what he was going to do, so he untied it angrily. What are you doing? Do you still want to quibble? Ji Chang's directly enlarged the photo. Then put it on the table. When you look at something, don't just look at the surface, but also pay more attention to the surroundings. For example, in this photo, the light and shadow on the ground, the shadow on the car, and the degree of contact with the clothes are obvious. Qi Yishu. She was unconsciously carried away, her eyes almost blurred as she stared at the photo, but she still didn't see anything. You're not fooling me, are you? Ji Chang's looked at her for a few seconds. She also looked at Ji Chang's. The young man looked like he had given up and took out his computer from his school bag and found a picture of a hug that was similar to this one. Now, do you see the difference? Qi Yishu, no. After saying this, she felt her boyfriend looking at her helplessly. Qi Yishu felt a little guilty inexplicably, but he felt guilty for a second and then reacted. It's not right. Ji Chang's did something wrong. Why should she feel guilty? Qi Yishu quickly made his position clear. I don't care what kind of evidence you have, please explain the matter clearly to me, or we will go to Wang Xixuan to confront him face to face. Definitely not looking for Wang Xixuan. Wang Xixuan wished that the whole world knew that Qi Yishu's boyfriend was chasing her. Thinking about it, Ji Chang's looked at Qi Yishu quietly for a few seconds. Then, the cold voice seemed to admit defeat. Okay. Qi Yishu, what's good? Then, she watched her boyfriend directly open a page and type quickly on the keyboard with his slender hands. Although he knew the occasion was wrong, Qi Yishu couldn't help but get curious. What are you doing? The young man stared at the computer and typed with his hands, but he answered easily. Hacking into the school's surveillance system. Qi Yishu. She watched helplessly as Ji Chang's actually found a section of the picture and then pointed the laptop towards her. The content of that paragraph was clearly displayed on the screen. Ji Chang's helped Wang Xixuan over, and then they both stood by the car, saying something. Until Wang Xixuan and Ji Chang's waved their hands and the two separated, they had no physical contact. Qi Yishu was a little confused when his boyfriend gained such a skill. He was confused, happy, and a little guilty at the same time. I'm glad that my boyfriend really has nothing to do with Wang Xixuan. Feeling guilty, she just got angry at her boyfriend. When Ji Chang saw that she had finished reading, he took the computer back, put it away and continued to read with his eyes down. Cough. Seeing that he didn't seem to blame her for misunderstanding him, Chi Yishu felt even more guilty. She carefully tugged the clothes on her boyfriend's shoulders and softened her voice. Nagasawa. Ji Chang's raised his eyes, still with the same expression. There was no anger in his eyes. He only asked calmly, "What's wrong? It's not like they misunderstood you on purpose. People on the internet are saying that you and her are a couple. I'm angry and jealous. I just thought, why don't you clarify?" Ji Chang's, "I don't have time to surf the internet." Before, Chi Yishu must have felt that he was perfunctory. How could no one in this era know how to use the internet? But thinking of the video she just saw, she pursed her lips and continued to tug on Ji Chang's clothes in a grieved tone. "Then I don't know, I was wrong, can you forgive me?" The young man's expression remained calm. "I don't blame you." Real. Ji Chang's put her phone back again. "It's normal for you to be angry when you see this photo. It would be the same for me. Hey. These words may seem like an explanation, but they actually imply that her boyfriend cares about her. Chi Yishu was happy, and then thought of the content of the photo, and smiled again. "But you smiled at her." Ji Chang's looked serious. "She said she grew up with you. When I think of you, I laugh. So that's it, but you haven't even smiled at me." He looked at Chi Yishu, who was deliberately pouting and acting coquettishly, and slowly raised his lips, revealing a faint smile. Ji Chang's face was always good-looking, but now his eyes were serious and pure, and his face had a sense of peace. Chi Yishu was stunned by his sudden smile. She came to her senses and couldn't care about anything else. When you are so beautiful, who cares about that? Nagasawa, smile again. Ji Chang's pulled her to sit next to him, took out a book from his school bag and gave it to her. "I'll make you laugh after reading this book. Your grades have dropped again. If you don't study again, you will fail." Chi Yishu wailed, "Don't be like this, just one more smile." Helplessness appeared on the young man's face again. Although there was no expression on his face, the helplessness in his eyes made Chi Yishu feel at ease. She looked at her boyfriend and gave her a righteous smile, and felt that she was about to get drunk. Pulling people to act coquettishly. "One more, the last one. This time is really the last one, I promise." When it was time to go back, Ji Chang specifically said to Chi Yishu, "You are a little frivolous, so it's best not to get too close to her." "Chi Yishu, the ghost is so young." "That's rubbish." But in front of her boyfriend, she still smiled sweetly. Yeah, I will. Smile one more time before you go." Ji Chang smiled lightly at her again. Although his expression was expressionless, his eyes were clear and innocent. Chi Yishu's heart was full of satisfaction. She said that her boyfriend would never do such a thing. But where did this rumor come from? When he went back, he happened to see Wang Xixuan. Chi Yishu wanted to take a detour, but accidentally remembered that her boyfriend had said frivolous words about Wang Xixuan to her. She thought for a while and stepped forward to ask. "Wang Xixuan, yes, everything posted on the internet is true. Your boyfriend is chasing me and hugging me." "Oh, I'm sorry, Chi Yishu, I didn't know that was your boyfriend." Of course this is false. She just knew that Ji Chang's was Chi Yishu's boyfriend, so she deliberately tricked him. "I didn't expect Ji Chang's to be so easy to take the bait. One hanging and one accurate. Now that it's fine, Chi Yishu will definitely be furious." As a result, Wang Xixuan met Chi Yishu's strange and angry look. "Wang Xixuan, you really have bad taste, you actually fell in love with such a person." Chi Yishu exploded. I asked you why those photos were posted so fast on the internet. It turned out that you wanted to seduce my boyfriend. You used this method to force us to break up so that you could take over. Wang Xixuan. Me? I like your boyfriend. Qi Yishu, is it possible that I am still attracted to your boyfriend? Wang Xixuan, do you want to show off? Fortunately, my parents can control it. I know that you are not a good person. You like to find handsome and outstanding people by yourself. Why are you trying to seduce my family? Wang Xixuan. She knew Ji Chang's was handsome. Is Ji Chang's excellent? She had noticed that people around her looked over and looked at her strangely. She quickly opened her mouth. Qi Yishu, don't talk nonsense, I don't have any. Bah! I even saw the surveillance and you still lied. Qi Yishu snorted coldly. Stop being delusional. Even if you try to drive a wedge between us, Nagasawa will not fall in love with you. After she finished speaking, she threw away her hands and left angrily. Wang Xixuan was left standing there, accepting the various looks from the people around him. Wang Xixuan. Is something wrong with Qi Yishu? Crazy. Everyone knows I'm a good man. Author, Tang Zhonmao. Chapter 20. After Ji Chang's and Qi Yishu separated, they went straight to the dormitory building. Although the original owner had a place in the school dormitory, he didn't come to stay often. Living in the dormitory was not as comfortable as living at home. He just called Qin Xinlian and brought it to him. He always acted like you mortals are not worthy of my sight every day, and he didn't go back to the dormitory often, so his relationship with his roommates was naturally cold. Most importantly, the original owner doesn't do the work. Dormitories have to be cleaned in turns. Usually the dormitory leader comes to schedule a date, and each person takes it in turn one day at a time. In the end, it was the original owner's turn, and he just said I can't do it. It's not like there isn't a rich second generation in the dormitory. The rich second generation also cleans the room, so why can't he do it if it gets to him? The original owner refused to take out the trash, wash the toilet, or tidy up. In modern society, if he doesn't do it, his roommates can't beat him up, so the original owner becomes a transparent person in the dormitory. But the original owner doesn't care. If he was ignored by a group of beautiful girls, he would still feel a little uncomfortable. But if it were replaced by 3 big men? Who birds them? He still goes his own way and does things that even his roommates can't stand. Generally speaking, the boys in university dormitories are more or less lazy, and few are particularly fond of cleanliness. There are some who save clothes and shoes for a week, but the boys in dormitory 301 are special. Among them, there are the rich second generation with flamboyant temperament, the dormitory head who comes from the countryside with a loyal temperament, and the nerds who work hard and study hard. These 3 people each have their own characteristics, but the only thing they have in common is that they love to be clean. Even if he didn't want to wash the clothes, he would take them to the coin-operated washing machine downstairs. The original owner didn't do any work at all. He put the clothes he changed into directly into the basin and waited until the next day to take them back for his mother to wash. Naturally, it became an alien. Coupled with his cold face, which looks like an iceberg to girls and looks like a dead fish to boys, it's no wonder that his 3 roommates would have a favorable impression of him. Ji Chang's, it's not a big problem. There was no one in the dormitory when he returned. After putting down his things, he turned around and went to take a shower. When I came back, the door was open, and the bookworm Chen Yuanyang was packing his clothes, apparently planning to take a shower. Seeing Ji Chang's come back, Chen Yuanyang showed a bit of embarrassment on his face. He opened his mouth hesitantly, as if he was planning to say hello to him, but then he thought of something and closed his mouth again. Looking at his appearance, Ji Chang's could guess what Chen Yuanyang must have been told by the people in the dormitory. To be precise, it was something he was told by his rich second-generation roommate. There are 4 people in the dormitory. Except for the original owner, the only one among the remaining 3 is the rich second-generation roommate who has a flamboyant temper. It's not like the other 2 are too embarrassed to break up with each other. Soft persimmon. So pinching. Ji Chang's face was still the same. He put the clothes in his hands in his basin under the bed, sat at his desk, opened the book and started reading. Chen Yueyang looked at the basin, looking a little hesitant and a little guilty. After all, there is such a big commotion on the school forum now. He has witnessed it with his own eyes. When they had an argument because Ji Chang's didn't clean the room, many dormitories saw it. Now that Ji Chang's incident came out, some people commented on it. Take it as an example. Although none of them participated, Chen Yueyang always felt a little guilty. After all, he was also a classmate. Although Ji Chang's was a little colder, apart from not cleaning up, he really didn't cause any trouble to the people in their dormitory. The result is now like this. He looked at the basin on the ground hesitantly, but finally couldn't hold it back and said, "Ji Chang's, I'm going to the laundry room to wash clothes after I take a shower, why don't I take your clothes with me?" If it were the original owner, he would definitely agree. Anyway, as long as you don't do anything, it doesn't matter what you do. But change it to Ji Chang's. He raised his eyes from the book and looked at Chen Yueyang coldly, "No need. I advise you not to use it either." Chen Yueyang looked confused, "Why? Wouldn't it be nice to have a washing machine?" Ji Chang's glanced at him, typed a few times on the computer, and showed the photos to Chen Yueyang. The voice was cold, "The inner drum of the washing machine has been used for a long time." Chen Yueyang looked at the washing machine drum in the photo that looked like it had rolled around in the mud, and he felt goosebumps all over his body. "I remember, we have had the washing machine downstairs for more than 2 years." The young man turned the computer back expressionlessly. The sentences are short, but each sentence contains great information. "When I entered the school, I checked out the freshman guide. The washing machines downstairs are shared. Someone once used them to wash shoes. Someone also washed the underwear." He glanced at Chen Yueyang and added, "I washed it after checking in with my girlfriend." Chen Yueyang. He loves cleanliness very much, and when he thought that his clothes had shared the same washing machine with these things, he almost vomited. With goosebumps all over his body, he didn't know what tone he should adopt. "You know this, why don't you tell us?" "Oh my God, no, I want to vomit." The young man looked at him again inexplicably. "You didn't ask." Pretty confident. Chen Yueyang. "We are all roommates, isn't it just a matter of course for you to remind us?" Ji Chang's, "It's a waste of time." Chen Yueyang. Ji Chang's continued to say in a natural tone of, "You are 100% responsible, I thought that every new student would read the freshman essential guide." Chen Yueyang thought the same thing. If they don't read the guide themselves, how can they blame others? Isn't this moral kidnapping? This is not good, but... He asked in a somewhat puzzled tone, "But I remember that there didn't seem to be this freshman guide when we first came to the school, right?" Ji Chang's, "Yeah. I do it by myself." Chen Yueyang. He felt he was being played. "How could we see what you did?" There was a rare doubt on the young man's handsome face, and he asked Chen Yueyang, "Shouldn't you be a guide when you enter the school?" Chen Yueyang, "Should we?" Ji Chang's, "Shouldn't it be?" There was a hint of realization in his eyes, "No wonder you all use the public washing machine." After saying that, the young man continued to read quietly with his eyes lowered, with an expression of, "So that's it, then that's no problem." He has picturesque eyebrows and fair face. It is very pleasing to sit here and read quietly like this. However, Chen Yueyang, who is also a man, does not want to reward, and also wants to beat someone. The expression on Ji Chang's face, the mystery that has confused me for a long time has finally been solved. What kind of trouble is this? If you have any questions, why don't you just ask them earlier? Don't you have to watch them use the public washing machine? Chen Yuanyang couldn't help it and asked through gritted teeth. Perhaps the young man felt that he had disturbed his reading time too many times, so he answered a little faster this time. Do I need to ask? Besides, it's a waste of time. Chen Yuanyang. Kill me. Beat this guy to death. He gave up discussing the issue of the washing machine and said casually before going out with the clothes in his arms, even if you don't use a washing machine, you can wash it by hand. It doesn't take much trouble to just wash a few clothes. Ji Chang's, waste of time. Chen Yuanyang, forget it, we can't communicate. Sure enough, there was a very good reason why Ji Chang's was not popular in the dormitory. Just wash clothes, how much time can be wasted, and we don't have many classes. Really Ji Chang's, I advise you to change. If you do nothing every day, no one will like to be with you. Ji Chang's put down his book, turned around for the first time and faced Chen Yuanyang. Chen Yuanyang, isn't he angry? He actually said it casually. Just as he was thinking about it, the young man in front of him suddenly said, Yishu likes it? Chen Yuanyang, who was still immersed in his own thoughts, huh? Ji Chang's patiently repeated to him, my girlfriend Yishu likes it? Chen Yuanyang was caught off guard and fed dog food. Oh my god, why can such a person have a girlfriend? He chuckled, anyway, when you go to work in the future, you will know that what I said is right. Just wash clothes, how much time can be wasted? He often works part-time, and of course he knows how people like Ji Chang's will be treated when they enter society. It is estimated that after being whipped a few times by society, Ji Chang's will know how tolerant his roommates are. Ji Chang's eyes became a little more serious. He directly picked up the pen and paper on the table and quickly wrote a series of beautiful numbers on it. As of this year, the average human lifespan is 75 years, 900 months, 27,000 days, and 64,800 hours. A normal child cannot learn much knowledge at the age of 7. After deducting 60,480 hours, there are 587,520 hours left. After deducting 8 hours of daily sleep, 2 hours of 3 meals, 1 hour of nap, half an hour of washing, and a minimum of half an hour of daily walking, the total is 293,760 hours, leaving 293,740 hours. Assuming that you work at the age of 24 and retire at 60, and deduct the minimum 8 hours of working time per day, there are a total of 103,690 hours, not counting the time spent traveling from home to work. After Ji Chang's finished speaking expressionlessly, he faced the stunned Chen Yuanyang and made his final conclusion. Most human beings only have 190,500 hours, 7,981 days, and 263 months of their own time. We are born with 27,000 days, and only less than 8,000 days can be used to learn. But you still have to waste time doing laundry in the school where you should be studying the most. Chen Yuanyang. When the lights came on outside, the roommates came back one after another. The rich second-generation roommate came back first. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Chen Yuanyang's clothes in the basin beside the bed. He looked strangely at Chen Yuanyang, who was busy writing. Yuanyang, why don't you wash your clothes? Chen Yuanyang literally has Fen written on his left eye and Do written on his right eye. A face full of smugness. I can't waste time. I need to study.